This conference will now be recorded.
So we'll call to order this September 21st, 2022 meeting of the Monterey Select Board at 5:30 PM. And we'll begin by marking board members' presence. Justin Maycook, President, Town Hall.
Susan Cooper, President, Town Hall.
Scott Jensen here.
So the whole board is present. The first item on the agenda is an executive session. I would entertain a motion to enter executive session for the agenda.
Do we need to ask Ms. Walker first? Or do we?
I'll take care of making
Okay.
sure that everything is done properly.
Do we need a second here?
I said I'd entertain a motion
Ah,
to,
Okay.
so is there a motion to,
I'm content to do it in open session, unless.
no, we have to, or per Donna's advice, we should enter executive session. I didn't add this agenda
Okay.
item, but I would entertain
I'll
a
make a
motion
motion to put us into executive session
for,
for the purpose of. I wanna make sure I get the wording correctly. To discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or, in this case, to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual.
right?
Did I get that right?
There's a motion on the floor. You might add to your motion, whether or not the board will re-enter open session after executive session.
I would suggest that the board re-enter open session, and be willing to revise whether an executive session or not in accordance with the will of the employee involved. Terry Walker.
So there's a motion to enter executive session to discuss complaints or charges, disciplinary dismissal of the town clerk, and to re-enter open meeting after the executive session. Donna, is that sufficient?
Yes, that's sufficient.
I'll call a vote on the motion to enter executive session.
You
Do
need
you have
a
a second?
Our board rules don't require a second.
Are you willing
Okay.
to second it?
Okay,
Is that the
Sure.
second?
If it needs a second, yes.
okay, so we'll call a vote. Susan,
Yes?
Scott,
Yes.
Justin, yes, and the motion carries, and we will enter executive session. So at this point in time, if you are a member of the public and not related to the executive session, please leave the room for the online participation.
Good night.
Okay.
I'm gonna move forward and lay out the process.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Just got one more person.
Can we close the meeting so that, but keep the recording going?
Yep.
So the motion to enter executive session carried. I will add that this hearing is conducted in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law for purpose one, unless, Terry, you request that the meeting be held in open session.
No, I'd like it in executive session.
Okay, Terry would like the meeting in executive session. Other rights that you have, which were also laid out in the notice that was delivered by hand on September 15th. You have the right to be present at this executive session during deliberations which involve you. You have the right to have counsel or representative you're choosing present and attend, you present and attending for the purpose of advising you and not for the purpose of active participation in the executive session. You have the right to speak on your own behalf, and you have the right to cause an independent record to be created of this executive session by audio recording or transcription. We will also be recording it via this GoToMeeting platform. So we should acknowledge everyone who is present at this executive session. So I'll start off. Justin Maycook, present as chair of the select board.
Susan Cooper, select board member.
Scott
Jensen, select board member.
and Terry.
Terry Walker, town clerk.
And I believe that your counsel or representative you're choosing is Jared Burke.
Yes.
Jared, can you hear us? We can't hear you. Maybe you're muted on your computer. We still can't hear you.
Recognized audio should have been heard.
Yeah. While we figure out that technical difficulty, Donna Brewer, you are here present as our town council, correct?
I am.
Okay, we can hear you.
So what's being done to rectify this?
The technical issue?
You can call in with the phone
Yeah.
and use that instead.
Can you try calling in via the phone link?
Can you hear us? Could you nod if you can hear us?
So you look.
Oh, he must have tried to just call in, probably gonna come back.
Yeah, but now we gotta unlock it and let him in.
Kyle, we're removing you because this is an executive session.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. So Jared Burke, you're present here as counsel for Terry Walker.
Correct.
So my understanding of this hearing, we've laid out the rights that Terry has. Well, and then I guess the last question is, Melissa, no town administrator is here for the purpose of keeping minutes. Is the board comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with that, I think someone needs to keep it.
Okay. And Melissa knows here in town hall with us.
Question, does
Yes.
Terry have the right to answer that question?
Which question, Scott?
Whether she's comfortable
Whether
with
she's
using that here.
comfortable with Ms. Knoll in her room or taking the notes?
Yeah, Terry, do you have a preference whether the town administrator is present for this hearing?
I'd look to my attorney.
We will be able to get the minutes after the fact with the recording. If
I don't think I was speaking exactly.
If divided two.
Okay.
Required, I would prefer she is not in the room.
Okay. So Donna, is that a decision up to the board?
That is the decision of the board. Terry's decision is only whether to have it in open session or executive session. But if the board wants to invite somebody there for the purposes of providing information regarding any of the complaints, then that is the board's prerogative.
Scott, Susan?
I think we should honor Terry's request,
I'm okay with that.
just for transparency.
Yeah, I mean, we'll still have to get the minutes, but
Yeah. Well,
Donna, should we call a vote on this, or can we go on general consensus that Melissa will not be present in the executive session unless called in, and we will take the minutes after?
You can go on general consensus.
Okay. All right. Melissa, if you'll be in your office in case we do need to call you?
Yeah.
Okay. So the process, as I understand it, is that in the notice that was served to you on September 15th, there are 6 complaints or charges to be considered, discussed, deliberated on. I think the board, unless there's opposition to this, will go 1 through 6, discuss each item, and probably motion to determine what the board believes the facts to be, or whether it's a disciplinary item. After going through all 6 of those items, depending on the outcome, the board will consider any discipline ranging from no discipline to termination, and any gamut, whether the board thinks that discipline is appropriate. After we've discussed all 6 items on the agenda, listed in the letter. Does that work?
Sure, I don't really care about the order, that works fine. I would say that I did see this as partially a dialogue, because some of the issues are issues that arose because I felt we couldn't get answers to questions, because Ms. Walker wasn't available. So I don't think it just has to be deliberation, I would like it to be at least in part a dialogue prior to deliberation.
Yes,
Is that
so,
reasonable?
yes, so I left that out, but I believe
Okay.
that we will, and I guess each item may be a little bit different, but the board, or a member of the board may explain what the charge or complaint is, and then Terry can have a chance to respond, consult her attorney if necessary, and there can be any amount of deliberation or dialogue as is necessary, and then a determination can be found by the board. I do want to add that I am introducing a few documents that I made some copies of. I'll give a copy to each. They'll come up throughout the various items, so I'll give a copy to each board member and to Terry. And I will leave a copy on the table to be for the record. So is everyone on board, or is everyone aware of what the process is? Does anyone have any questions before we begin?
No.
No questions? Okay, so the first item listed in the letter is failure to appear for work at the hours set by the select board.
Basically insubordination.
So Susan, do you wanna speak to what the charge or complaint is on this?
Well, we asked you to begin your new hours last week. Not only did you not begin the new hours, but you didn't tell us you wouldn't, nor did you provide any reason why you could not. So this is your opportunity.
Okay. Because Justin's my liaison, so he and I had been talking about it, and the letter on August 31st, that you, when you signed on, I thought that was a proposal from the 3 of you, and Justin and I said, I told Justin, I said, I can't work Saturdays, so could I do another proposal? And I spoke to my attorney, and he said, if you had any questions, to call him. I wasn't trying to not work the hours you wanted, I was just trying to negotiate to come up with something that worked for both of us.
Well, we did ask you to start the Wednesday hours on the 14th.
Well,
Were you
So I
aware
would-
that she had a plan not
so-
to do so?
I would like to touch on the email chain, which I think,
Is that
some-
in this file?
yeah, item 1. So the first, if you go all the way back to the back, on September 1st, I sent an email to Terry, which included the letter from the select board, which did set a hard start date for the new office hours. There was a couple of emails back and forth between them, but nothing of much substance. other than scheduling until, and Terry had said that she wanted to make a counter proposal, and I said that, of course, it would have to go to the board if she did so.
The ones I'm looking at look like they're about being present at the meeting, so this one's about
Item one. And the main page that I would like to draw your attention to is the first page, actually.
Okay, sorry, I was looking for the year.
So, September 1st to September 8th, about a week, a little over a week went by, and Terry responded to the board on Thursday, September 8th, in response to our proposal, or our letter, which had set a hard start time of September 14th for the new hours. But Terry wrote on Thursday, September 8th, and made a counter proposal for Wednesday 10 AM to 7 PM and Friday 9 AM to 7:45 PM with no discretionary hours. I responded to Terry, not in this email chain, but I said that, of course, I couldn't authorize the new schedule, but that I would bring it to the board the following week for deliberation of whether, and I introduced it to the board on September 14th. And I said, and Susan and Scott were already in receipt of this counter proposal. And I had told Terry, we will discuss it at our meeting on Wednesday and make a decision as to whether the board would like to stick with the original proposal or with the counter proposal or something else. I think ideally, Terry may have reached out and said, there is this, not discrepancy, but we are kind of in the middle of a negotiation. The board had set a hard start time for a new office hour schedule, but Terry had offered a counter proposal, which I had said that we would consider at the next meeting, on September 14th. I think ideally, Terry may have reached out and said, do you want me to stick with my old hours or with the new proposed hours while we're negotiating? But I think the fact that Terry did not show up to work on September 14th is not an act of insubordination subject to discipline, because the board, did, like I told Terry would discuss her counter proposal, our original proposal, on the evening meeting of Wednesday the 14th, and did agree to something, actually an entirely new schedule, right? So I think ideally Terry would have reached out and said, I'm not sure whether to continue my old schedule or the new one, but I don't think the fact that she didn't can be considered a bona fide act of insubordination, because I think there was, I had told Terry, and this is the reason why I didn't feel comfortable serving this executive session notice, I had told Terry, not we will accept your new schedule, not stick with the old schedule, but that we will consider your counter proposal and make a decision on Wednesday the 14th. Which is exactly what we did. So.
Were you aware when we were considering this, the revised schedule on Wednesday the 14th, that Ms. Walker, as she just said, cannot work on Saturdays?
Well, I had spoken.
Although she's been having posted by appointment hours on Saturdays?
So I had spoken to Ms. Walker, and she did say that she preferred to not work Saturday hours, which was not part of her going back, but her original proposal. It was part of our August 31st letter to Terry. I was aware that she didn't prefer to work Saturday hours, but, Terry did not say to me, I have another job on Saturday or something of that nature. She more or less said that she did not prefer to work on a regular Saturday schedule and would be available to come in on a Saturday or Sunday, but would prefer to not have that as part of her regularly scheduled hours. But I ultimately left it up to the board. If you recall, on that Wednesday, September 14th meeting, we had some discussion about whether we thought that those Saturday hours should be compulsory. And I thought, at the end of the day, if the board requires Terry to work Saturday hours, that may be the case, but we didn't. And I thought, by telling Terry that we would make a decision on the September the 14th, I was respecting the authority of the board as a whole.
You've made your point.
Um,
I do think that taking from August 10th to now to finally get hours was a considerable span of time. A considerable span of time that is longer than it needed. And I feel like everything has been that way since the time I started. And I find that difficult. I find it difficult to operate where every single thing requires months, even small things. It's very frustrating. I see your point, and I yield on that point. I am, however, still gonna bring up the fact that we've had trouble getting you to come into meetings. Again and again and again. The latest one was we
Can we-
expected you on the 31st. Yeah, I
yeah,
thought we.
No, sorry.
You're right,
Yeah,
you're
sorry, but I wanna make sure that we go one at a time. I
Yeah.
think you are dipping into number 2. Does the board,
Sorry,
I
have
would,
them listed.
I would move that the board find that
Okay.
one failure to appear for work on September 14th, that the board not find that to be an act of insubordination.
Are we content, like, are you going to now be working these hours regularly?
Yes, I will. Mhm.
Are we okay with those hours?
What hours have we settled on?
So that would be,
That's what's
that
in
would
here
be
under item one.
item 1. We have not finalized, we have not approved the minutes. But
I'm sorry, the minutes? Oh, the minutes
we have
of
not
the
approved the
meeting.
minutes because the board acts officially through its minutes, but this, I think, is a pretty, this is what we agreed upon.
10 to 7, 11 to 7:45, 2 discretionary hours.
Yes.
All good, just for clarity. Thanks, sir.
And if I have an appointment on a Saturday, like for marriage intention, I'm willing to do that. Come in, do a marriage intention. Because people work during the week, and that's one of the things I would do is a marriage intention on a Saturday. Or an evening, you know. And these hours will work for me.
Hopefully they'll work for the town.
Is there, Donna, would you recommend calling a vote on each item, or can we go by general consensus?
I thought you had described going through and just seeing if the evidence was substantiated for everything, but then saving for the end what kind of finding that you would make for the purposes of discipline. So,
Okay. So I had made a motion that the board find number 1, failure to appear for work on September 14th, not an act of insubordination, but we will, rather than take a vote on each item, we will move through the items still one by one, and then discuss at the end what, if any, behaviors warrant discipline.
I will say one thing that I think might have improved, my outlook here would have been that you guys are communicating sometimes verbally and sometimes through email, but because you're a select board member, you're the only one that knows until the next select board meeting if it gets raised, if it's on the agenda, which might mean we never find out. That is causing some problems, right? Because that means I did not know some of this information, right? And it didn't get raised at a select board meeting, and that is problematic, and I don't know how to solve it as long as the only report that Terry has is you.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree. At the time that the executive session was solely for this purpose, I was in a difficult spot because, we had received this counter proposal, and now, in some ways, it actually was received by everyone because it was sent to everyone by email on September 8th. And my general MO has been to defer decisions, and we'll see later, once later in this meeting, okay, I can't make a decision, but I will bring it to the board and see what the board thinks, and the board ultimately made this decision. And yes, it is kind of in between board meetings is a difficult time, because I can't make a decision by myself, I need to bring it to the board.
But you can't even communicate with us that a communication happened,
Yes.
or, and, you know, so, and I don't know, I don't see a way around that, other than the communications going through HR.
Yeah.
Which is very awkward, because she's only on 6 hours a week.
One would also go through the TA possibly.
It would, except Ms. Walker isn't willing to communicate with the TA.
Well, no, we're talking about Justin's communication to us.
No, because that's a third party situation. So
Right,
if
but
Justin
that was what your
communicates.
concern was, is that we weren't able to communicate the information that he had. And he,
We weren't told the information. he had.
right, so
But if
he had,
he were to tell the TA and the TA were to tell us, that's third party. And he's still communicating through a third party, and
Well,
that's forbidden.
so I do see the difficulty, because I've lived through it.
I
I'm
figured
not
you
certain
did.
that's a problem.
It is.
I think.
Well, it's a communication, it isn't a directive.
It's
It's
just
two different things.
informational.
Yeah, I mean, if a direction or a request to basically take arms type thing, it's
This
two different
information
things.
has come to me is different than
Right.
I asked for this.
Or no,
Or I
or
said, I
saying,
believe this.
or saying we need to discuss this, or
Right.
something like that. I think that if Justin had some information about anybody, or if any one of us did,
Right,
we could go to HR or TA, relay that to them. That's their position to then relay it to us that these things are happening and that we'll have something on an agenda. I do believe that that's covered. It's not open meeting law violation. It would be if you two sent the information to each other.
So my understanding is that nothing.
Can we clarify that?
Nothing that is relayed between, that would be violative of the open meeting law, could be sent through a third person, like Susan says, and then make it not. You can't use an intermediary, to evade, open meeting.
Well, we're not trying to evade anything.
Yeah.
We're trying,
to make sure there's clear
we're trying for just
communication in between
communication.
meetings.
It's not that we're trying to
So
vote
that's the
on
line,
something.
it's not someone's
At least
decision or
that's how I remember it, but
opinion, it's information they've obtained, is that sort of the dividing line?
Can we get some clarity on that, Ms. Brewer?
So I agree, it's a difficult line to draw. But Susan and Justin are correct that you cannot take information from one select board member, give it to a third party who then gives it to the other members. That's the problem that you run into. What you can do is Justin can send to the two of you, for our next meeting, I am going to put on the agenda this topic. That's it. You can discuss matters that go on an agenda, but you cannot discuss the substance of anything that is going to be a matter that you can only deliberate or discuss in an open or executive session.
So essentially, any communications, verbal or written, between Ms. Walker and Mr. Mayfield can only be brought to the attention of the other select board members at a select board meeting.
Correct.
So, and to touch on that point, but to stick to this first item, to stay on
Yeah.
task.
Good.
I'm certainly, I think it has been a clumsy system in many ways, and I'm certainly open to reconsidering. I think as far as this item goes, I felt that since Carrie had sent it to all board members, her counter proposal on September 8th, and then I had added it to the agenda, probably the draft agenda if I sent one over the weekend, but definitely by Monday, the 12th, it would have been on the select board agenda, town clerk office hours. So I felt like the other board members were aware of the counter proposal. And no one knew, right, how we would decide. Maybe the board could have said, no, we are sticking with our initial proposal, and maybe the board could have said, we accept your new proposal, and we did something a little different from either, because we can't make that decision outside of open meeting. I just don't feel that, this is a real example of insubordination, given the asterisks of the counter proposal and the negotiation.
I've already
Yeah.
agreed with you on that.
Okay.
It was just that it also raised the issue of ongoing communication problems. So
Absolutely.
I just don't want us to constantly have communication problems that lead to so much frustration that I'm like, what the heck?
Absolutely.
It's very frustrating, and in a town where we have a TA, a 6-hour HR person, and a select board, and we have a clerk that doesn't wish to communicate in any way or receive communications in any way from the one other full-time staff member, town administrator, it makes for a very awkward situation. As we'll see as we go down this list.
Okay.
It has led to repeated problems. And I think it's a real problem for the town, and it's gonna be a problem for you ultimately, because it makes a lot of extra work for you.
Yes, I'm aware of the downfalls in the.
I know, and if I thought there was an alternative system, I would be happy to listen to entertain that
Yeah,
option,
and
and I don't
let's,
see one.
let's definitely discuss that.
Okay.
Going forward.
Are we
So,
on item
item
2?
number 2 is failure to appear before the board in a timely manner to discuss work-related issues.
So I will leave off the fact that this happened earlier on, back in May and again in June, and just focus on the recent thing. We expected you at the August 31st meeting, we had asked, you couldn't make it. We then expected you at the set meeting on the 7th, you couldn't make it. On the 8th, you finally responded and you said that you would meet with us on October 12th. Now, forgive me, Terry, but I've had bosses. I cannot imagine that my boss wants to meet with me and I say, sure, I can do that in 5 weeks, no problem. I would have been fired. Right, it would never, I'm like, to me, that's when the officer says at your earliest convenience, you get your butt off your chair and you go and speak to the person. You don't wait, say, yes, I'll speak to you in 5 weeks. It's not acceptable. What's your response?
Well, I had discussed it with my attorney, and with everything going on, I just needed time. August 31st was my husband's 75th birthday, and I was closing on my new house on the 7th, and I had a therapist appointment, so that's, it's real reasons, for those 2 times, and on the
And
7th, it was at 1 o'clock, and my closing on the house was at 12:30, and my therapist at 2. My husband's birthday, so it was just 2, I wasn't lying about either day.
And the 12th of October?
Well, we had, with everything going on, I needed time. And I talked to my attorney about it as well.
Can you imagine saying to your boss, either of you, that you wouldn't be willing to see them for 5 weeks, that you needed time? That, my boss would have said, oh, you have plenty of time, here's your pink slip. Maybe see you later. I can't imagine if Dean asked me to come and see him and I said I can, I'm sorry, I'm really busy. It's very upsetting to me, I can't see you for 5 weeks. Unless,
Ms.
unless
Cooper?
they had a contract, I would have been dismissed.
Sorry, Jared, are you done speaking?
I am.
Jared, do you want to counsel your client?
I understand my participation here is very limited. I would just ask Ms. Cooper, the manner in which she's addressing Ms. Walker.
Can you
from
please
my
do it through, can you please do it through your client?
Sure. Ms. Walker, can you please ask Ms. Cooper to address you in a respectful tone? Thank you.
Please address me in a respectful way.
Sorry, the telephone game amused me, it wasn't the comment itself. Understood. You're absolutely right, I should tone it down, and I apologize. I'm just kind of incredulous. If you had been in the hospital, it would have been a different situation.
So that's item 2.
Yeah, but does anybody else have any comments on the 5-week wait?
Yeah, I think, I had been in touch with you, on the first couple of weeks. And you had told me that you had the birthday and the closing on your house. And so I felt that that was, reasonable. But, one thing that we have tried to do is to accommodate, because we don't we are not required to meet on Wednesdays. So, yeah, I think it is really important for everyone that, that you do make time to meet with the board. I think throughout the year and a half, the less than year and a half I've been on the board, for the most part, you have come in to meet with the board when requested. And I think, it's hard to deal with items of business if you make yourself unavailable for weeks at a time.
Okay, I have to, this is personal, but my daughter had a bout with, a heart condition. She has 2 little kids. And, we have a sitter lined up for the 12th that I won't have to babysit, on Wednesdays. So we had to get back up for Wednesdays. And I couldn't meet till the 12th because the sitter starts on the 12th.
I see.
But I didn't know if personal things should get into this, but she's very sick.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Ma'am, I would say personal things are the only thing that matter.
Okay.
So I think that would affect all of us.
Okay.
So you should never feel poorly about having things like that.
And the sitter starts on October 12th, so Wednesdays I'll be free.
Because without personality and personal things, we're all nothing.
Okay.
That's what makes each one of us a different person. Is the things that we go through and deal with and work around.
And I wasn't trying to be rude, I was trying to get around it without telling what the real problem is.
Clarity.
Yes.
Clarity in the cause
Yeah.
would solve a lot of issues.
And so I think in the future, one, maybe the better, where we could have gotten off on better footing is if you said I can't do Wednesdays. But
Okay.
since I've been on the board, especially for critical items, the board has made an effort to meet on other days of the week, as necessary. And if that is required, we have typically accommodated that, but it was hard to glean that, or hard to understand that from your response that it was Wednesdays that you couldn't do.
I thought at one point you even asked if she could meet us on the Thursday or Friday of that week, and it was early in the week that you asked her because we needed to make sure we could have the 48 hours.
That is actually in the email chain of item 1 that I provided. I had suggested other dates, Thursday.
But then the only
and
answer
Friday
you got
night.
back was the October 12th one? Or did you get an answer to that one? I didn't
Yes.
see otherwise in here.
No, this is to my, I believe the email
Right,
chain.
that's what I saw in there, but I just wanted to clarify that we had actually even asked for a potential meeting on other days. So I thought we had been clear that it didn't have to be on a Wednesday.
Yes.
That we would try to accommodate you, and I believe even the HR person, Sophia, said that she would try to accommodate those hours, even though she usually works Wednesdays, so. Is that, what's the next?
If that's item number 2, item number 3 is incorrect advice regarding schedule for special election and financial accounting of the election.
So, when I was just on the board, in a pretty early meeting there, we had to deal with filling the vacancy. As I understand it, having looked at the meeting minutes, Chairman Murkett met with you on a number of occasions, and he then came into the select board and said that we could not, I believe the word used was piggyback the special election onto the state primary or the state election. Is that advice that you did give him?
Well, we were discussing what would happen, and it took so long to set the date for the special election that I had state primary ballots that I was mailing out in July.
We set the date for the special election in June. In fact, May, I believe. Would you like me to check what day it was?
So my recollection And unfortunately, I checked my email and I did not, for some reason, email about this, so I don't think that I have anything written. But my duty was to check with the caucus chairs about any dates that we couldn't hold the election.
Right.
And specifically to check with the clerk,
Mhm.
about what dates, we could hold the special election based on what you knew about the law and based on your availability.
Mhm.
And I do recall there was a lot of discussion about the auto mark system, which ultimately you rented another chip. And how is it in the minutes? Do you have the minutes?
do you remember which minutes it was? I'm trying to think. I wrote it down and yet I don't have it. I believe it was in May. I just don't remember which date in May. It's probably the 23rd.
What are you trying to rectify?
The day upon which we had multiple conversations
Sometime in May?
in May,
Can we leave it at that?
sure.
I mean, it's the actual date.
That important,
Specific.
perhaps not,
I think
but it wasn't July.
it's possible that it was May or
Or-
June.
In any event, we had multiple conversations, one in which he had spoken with you and he came in
Right.
and said we couldn't piggyback. Then there were multiple more conversations over the intervening 2 weeks, I believe, before we finally set the date, that involved dates we could hold it.
Right.
Were you aware during that period that we could have held the election in coordination with the state primary day?
I was, but there was issues, because this room is so small,
Mm-hmm.
I'd have had to have, 2 sets of voter lists. I'd have had to have double the people in here, and this room is so
Why
confined.
double, just
Because we
extra
had-
people for the check-in
The
and check-out?
check-in, check-out, we'd have had to have double counters, 2 sets of counters for the selectmen and the state primary. So we would have had we had 140 for selectmen and 210, so we'd have had to hire more counters, and I didn't think this room would hold everything.
We could have changed the size of the election if we needed to, but.
Well, that takes a vote, and you have to write to the state to change the election. There were so many things, going on, and it just seemed like a bad idea at the time.
So.
And I got a letter from Michelle Tassinari,
Mhm.
and from the date that,
Do you have multiple copies?
yes, I have 3, and that I didn't do anything incorrect. She says, I did.
What I felt was incorrect was that we were given advice that we could not. Had I understood that we could have, but that there were issues, I could have made a decision accordingly. But to be told that I could not, and then to find out on the state primary day that New Marlboro had an election for a select board member in conjunction with the state primary, I was kind of upset that I had been misinformed, because that seemed fairly significant.
But you see, we'd have still had to get the selectman wouldn't have been on the state primary ballot. We still had to have 2 sets of ballots.
Separate ballot, I got that.
And New Marlboro doesn't hand count like we do, so it's 2 totally different
How are they
situations.
counted, by the way?
They have a count talk to Kathy Creation, they can't count by hand. And we have so few counters here, I have a hard time to get counters. I didn't wanna lead you astray, I was just trying to figure out how we were gonna do this. We'd had to take the chip out, if somebody came in to vote for the state primary, take it out and reboot it for the.
With the automark?
With the automark.
When was
yes.
the last time someone used the automark?
Well, they haven't, but I've never used it.
But they could.
They could,
Right.
and I try to get people to use it, and if the state walks in and I don't have it set up for it, I could, it'd be a
I can
issue,
understand, I would have liked to be informed about what the issues were, so I could have made an informed decision,
Okay.
rather than being told that I could not do so.
Yeah, I mean, I was of the understanding that it was not feasible at all
Oh,
to hold the town special election on the date of the state primary
Mhm.
election. That was my understanding, because I think I also would have considered, like New Marlboro did, putting them on the same date. And if known about the issues in particular, we could have had that discussion as well to maybe accommodate a larger voting space. I know the election workers cannot necessarily be accommodated.
But the cost, I mean, probably wouldn't have been quite as much because the officers, I pay $50 an hour now. But we would have still had to pay $1,000 for the ballot, for the selectmen, for the automarked ballots, because I have to buy them.
The majority of what I saw on your accounting
Yeah.
was staff. So, right, there's relatively little involved. I mean, I guess it was $1,000. I have these all, the Audemars is $1,000, but it would have been that amount no matter what we held it.
Yes.
So that, although, didn't you say you got it for?
Can I advise my client for a brief moment?
Yeah, Jared, Susan, are you done speaking?
Sure.
Jared, you can advise your client.
Thank you, Chairman, I appreciate that. Ms. Walker, can you please ask Ms. Cooper when she learned about the alleged misinformation that you conveyed to her? I just want that documented.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Ask her when she learned that you allegedly given her misinformation.
when did you learn that I gave you misinformation?
My brother is newly a resident of New Marlboro.
Okay.
And he called me over the weekend before the primary
Okay.
to say they had a
dual.
select person being elected on that date, and I said, well, I didn't think that was allowed. So on Tuesday, I called the election office to see if that was permissible, and lo and behold, it was.
But like I said, they have,
And when was the
1 second,
election?
Jared.
On the day of the primary, the 8th,
Jared,
When was the date of the primary?
September 8th,
Okay, thank you.
I believe.
I believe it's actually September.
The 6th.
September
The 6th, sorry.
6th. Yeah, September 6th, a Tuesday, yeah.
Thank you.
I think that,
Here it is. So according to your accounting that you sent me, the election workers were about $1,180. The counters were set $175, the police officer was $400,
Yeah.
the food was $304.50, the automatic voting was $1,000, and then another $15 for the chip. Had we had them on the same day, the election workers would have been a little more by your reckoning, because we would have needed additional people.
Yes.
The automark would be the same 1 or 2 days of election, we'd still need it per ballot, correct?
Yes.
The food would have been the same, maybe a little bit more, because you had a few more people. The police officer would have been the same as for the primary, because the hours of voting would have been longer. Nevertheless, it's, so $2,000, if you take out the automark part.
Right.
Somewhere on the order of $2,000 we wouldn't have spent had we had it on the same day. Maybe a little less, maybe only 1,500 because of the extra counters.
But I used some of the early voting grant money that I wrote a little grant, and like last year, it's been carried over, so some of that money, I was able to save the town by using my grant money. So
But we could have used that for the early voting that's coming up.
So.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry that this happened. Like I said, Kathy does not count the ballots manually like we do. And I have a really difficult time to get counters.
Do we need to consider changing the way we're counting ballots?
Well, I'm talking to Kathy because it may work. It's a different voting machine. It costs a lot of money. It costs more than the way we do it, but it's a voting machine. But it's something to consider.
Okay.
is that finish item number 3?
That's all the questions I have about item number 3.
And I'd like to add something.
Yes.
I donated a potato salad a pasta salad and a vegetable salad out of my own pocket so that it would save the town money as far as food. And, because it would, been expensive, and my son and I did the 3 salads to donate to the town.
How many election workers total were there? Do you know offhand?
I'd have to go count, I don't know off the top of my head, because some would get tired and leave,
More than 10
well, I believe so, but they weren't all here at the same
at a time?
time. And my counters are different than the check-in and check-out people, and we have our,
I guess I meant how many workers, not just how many.
I don't know, and I have to have an election warden, a constable, and, so everything, it goes smooth, we have a smooth running election.
I've never seen any problems with the running of the election part.
Okay.
So that takes care of number 3, we'll move to number 4, error-ridden list of current board and committee members.
I'm gonna suggest that since that's part of some of the IT issues, we maybe do the IT issue first, because the problems with the board and committees list, I think stems at least in part from that.
Okay, if there's no opposition, we will discuss item 5 before item 4. Okay, item 5 is issues concerning backup of critical data and IT provider.
So, you've raised in a bunch of emails issues with IT. A significant portion of this precedes any of our tenure, so I'm gonna ask some questions because I simply lack adequate information.
Okay.
As I understand it, based on a copy of a November 29th, 2017 email that you sent to Ms. No, you reported a problem with your computer. I have a copy of the email if you want me to read it. Basically, you say that Jay, the computer tech, was unable to ascertain what occurred. Would you like me to read that email? I can't imagine you even remember from 5 years ago.
But no, I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what exactly transpired? Tell us about that.
Well, Jay came in and he had a seizure while he was in my office. And
Goodness.
so it was and then he just left. And he said my computer had been compromised. Then I went to the selectman and said, that's not true. So I said, well, either it was or it wasn't. So that ended that one. But he did have a seizure while he was in the office. And Melissa said she was aware of that he had issues. But the main thing was with Tom Roy losing the data, which is human error. Tom Roy had to update. No, I felt comfortable enough that Melissa had my email, my password, and Tom had it. I was brand new and I felt comfortable with everybody. And so Tom would go from his house and Melissa would say, leave your computer on, and I would. And so he would update it, like
he updates all the other machines.
Yeah. So this one time I was comfortable, and he would always come in on the day I wasn't here. So he lost 10 years worth of dog licensing, marriages, boards and commissions, and DBAs, doing business as. And I asked him, so my IT guy that Emily bought this program from, she has a master's degree in computer technology and she knows everything. So she tried to work with him and he said it was on the cloud. So they tried to work and get it off the server cloud and it was totally gone. So what I did is I had been working for 4 years, uploading the hard, well, Justin helped me when he was working for me, like putting all this data back into the system. And now everything I have in the office is in there, but if there's issues and errors, it means that some of the data that was lost, there wasn't hard copies in the office. So I can't, rather than go back, who knows, or where the hard copies. So this is the best I can do with what I have in my office. Everything is in the modules, everything I have.
So the email I have dated in 2017 says, secondly, on Monday, my computer by Window, I'm not sure, but it says widow, was not working properly. I asked Melissa if she had problems with her computer and she said no, it was fine. I contacted Jay Computer Tech to correct the issues.
Mhm.
Jay said someone had compromised the computer.
Yep.
All history was deleted, icons were moved on desktop, size of everything was distorted, emails, vitals, dog and DBAs were all off. The dyno printer was all messed up.
Mhm.
After Jay left, I had problems printing a birth certificate. This is the incident
Yep.
you speak of. Okay, so at that time, you're saying that Jay and that firm was responsible for the computer system, had access to the computer system, had access to the office. It does go on to say, Jay said these issues don't just happen. Megan said she did not touch the computer on Saturday. He said someone had to physically change all settings.
Right.
The computer is still not working properly.
So when I met with the selectmen, because they were concerned about this.
Well, reasonably
compromise.
so, yeah.
So I walked in and Jay was there and he said, I didn't tell her that. So I didn't want him back in my office, so they sent Tom Roy I don't want anybody that lies. He tells me it was compromised, and he tells the selectmen, I didn't tell her that. Then I blamed it on the seizure he had that he probably forgot. He got confused.
So he had the seizure the same day that initial incident occurred?
Yes,
But was all the data gone at that point or not until 2018?
no, it wasn't gone. At that time, the dogs, it was in a different area, a different place on the desktop.
Okay.
And nothing had been saved on on the server or on the cloud is what they call it.
And there's no hard backup?
Yes.
There is
Now
now,
there
or
is.
was there then?
No, there wasn't any then at the time.
Wow.
No,
So
nothing.
the town wasn't in the habit of backing up all critical data on another hard drive or even a USB stick?
And I didn't know that because I'm not an IT guy. So when this happened, I was shocked.
I'm not an IT guy either, but I back up all my data. I mean, I wouldn't want my banking records and every document I've ever worked for lost because somebody spilled a cup of soda on my computer, which happens.
I will admit that nothing that I have on this computer, other than if I've sent it via email, is backed up anywhere, and it worries me. But I try to protect this computer.
It's just stuff happens.
But I mean, certainly as far as IT protocol goes, we need to, and here, I'll step in. I did give everyone on an email chain called item number 5. And on page 3 of 4, I followed up a meeting that I had with Terry on August 25th.
Should you read this forwards or backwards?
Just look at page 3. So I had met with Terry,
That's the 25th.
yeah, August 25th, 2022. I had met with Terry, in particular, you'll see at the bottom, IT Tom Roy. So Melissa had let me know that Tom Roy was going to come in and back up Terry's computer and to please have Terry send her passwords to Tom Roy and leave her computer on or something of that nature. So in my weekly meeting with Terry, I said, can you please send your passwords to Tom Roy and leave your computer on, or do whatever it takes to let Tom Roy access your email. So this is August 25th. I met with Terry and I clarified, IT Tom Roy, you let me know that you are uncomfortable with having Tom Roy access your town computer to confirm if it is properly backing up to the town server due to the prior incident where he accidentally deleted your data. You inform me that your data is backed up on a flash drive and on the cloud with a company in Rhode Island. And I write in the last sentence, we will have to determine if this is satisfactory or if we can work towards a solution to ensure that all the data is sufficiently backed up. So at the most recent select board meeting, there's a lot of other stuff in the email chain, but I think that that's the most important, what I wrote on August 25th. On the September 14th select board meeting, Scott and Susan and I discussed this item. We don't have draft minutes yet or approved minutes, but to the best of my recollection, we agreed and voted that Tom Roy does need to have access to your computer to back up the data,
Sure.
and that you have the right to be present while he's doing that, but that is something that the town needs. My analysis of those facts is that there was a considerable amount of time between August 25th and September 14th, just under a month. But when Terry had told me she did not want Tom Roy to access her computer, I said, when I write, we will have to determine if this is satisfactory or if we can work towards a solution to ensure that all the data is sufficiently backed up. I meant that I will bring it to the board, because the board may require, and ultimately did require, that Tom Murray have access to your computer to back it up to the town server. However, I don't see it as a disciplinary item, because,
I didn't mean it as
Yeah.
one, I meant it as, I need to understand what happened. It's.
Yeah.
Like I said, part of my issue was that it's hard to actually get Terry in a conversation so we can find out what happened. I am no IT expert,
Well, one thing.
I admit, but I do feel like just having backup to the cloud might not be adequate, excuse me. I think it's great that you have it on a thumb drive. I'm surprised that the IT firm hasn't suggested we also be backing up to a hard drive. I guess everyone's
So-
migrating to the cloud, but that has its own risks.
I don't want to speak beyond my knowledge here, but it actually is my sense that this server may be the data that, the server where our town's data is backed up may be a physical server, and there may also be a cloud component. Again, I'm not an IT person, but we all are not here. But I think, for the purposes, because this is in part a meeting to determine, it is mostly a meeting to determine what discipline, if any, the select board should impose on Terry as town clerk. I think at this point, Terry, the board has made the decision that Tom Roy is to go on the computer and back it up to the town server. And we need compliance with that, and like we said, you have the right to be present. But, up until September 14th, again, it was an item and that the board had not made a decision on. But the board was not entirely in the dark, because on August 30th, Terry had forwarded my email in the email chain to me, Susan, Scott, and Sophia as HR director. So in some ways, I know we didn't have an open discussion about it until September 14th, but the board was aware that there was a disagreement, but now we've made a decision, we need to move forward where Tom Murray does have access to the computer.
And I'm gonna, I know that's outside this meeting, but I think it might be really good if we got some written recommendations from the IT firm about what they think best practice is for the town's critical documents to be backed up, not just the clerk's office.
So, and our IT firm, to my understanding, is not an IT firm, it's Tom Murray and Jay Cosgrove.
They're not a company, they're just two people.
They may have a LLC, Scott may be familiar, but I believe that Tom Murray has a full-time job that
I don't know
is
anything
not IT related, and that this is a nights and weekends kind of job. But, and I know because in part when we sign warrants, it's to Tom Roy, right? There's not another name unless the company is him himself.
Well, somebody can be incorporated by themselves,
Yeah.
but your point's taken.
Your point well taken, we need to discuss.
And
I
Collins.
whoever it is, I'd
Yeah.
still like to have a IT assessment, call it what you will. It may not be the thing for this meeting right this second, because it's not just
Yeah.
the clerk that I'm talking about, but this raises a substantive issue that I think the board needs to address in terms of having good IT coverage for the town and making sure that our critical data is backed up.
Again, outside of the scope of the
Yeah, I
meeting.
did say that.
But there are audits that you should be aware of, and the Collins Center report touches on IT, and it is something that we have been working on, but yes, it is definitely. Yes, Terry?
And I'm willing to work with anyone as long as I'm here and have the person in my office rather than be in my office when I'm not there or working on the computer from his house. So I don't have anything against Tom Rowe. I just want to be present when he's working on my computer. That's all.
That is different than what you said in some of your emails, but I'll accept it.
And that's what we put in that notice.
Okay.
That you have absolutely every right to be present during the entire time.
Well, I feel like I'm cooperating and
You are, but I just wanna go on record that you actually said, I'm not only uncomfortable using the town administrator's IT person, but I refuse to allow him to do anything on my computer. So this is a change of heart, and I appreciate
okay.
it.
Okay, so we will go forward with the board's decision from last week. We will move back to error-ridden list of current board and committee members. I will take a stab at this. So we did receive the 2022, or the most recent boards and commissions. And when I look at it, I do see discrepancies of people that are no longer serving or people who are missing. And I wondered what the procedure is for establishing this list, because I know that one thing that happens is people do not get sworn in, and I don't know if that's why I'm imagining, or I am operating under a very different circumstance, set of understandings than you are. For instance, the Board of Health, Maycock John, Tom Mency, and Mort Salomon is up to date as of the last election. The terms and how they end are exactly how I understand them to end. The sworn date, open meeting law date, and state ethics, I can't confirm that, but I trust that they are accurate. There are other committees or commissions, like the cemetery commission only has 2 people listed, but it is a 3-member board, and I'm wondering do you have any clue why? Do you think it's because those people aren't coming to get sworn in?
Unless I have a list from the selectmen of who they're appointing, like for these committees, like not just the paperwork, but a list, so it's easy to follow. Like when you appoint people, then it would be so easy to just go through it together. But if they don't come in to be sworn in with their paper, how would I know they were sworn in? How would I know they were appointed?
Well, there are 3 people on the bylaw review committee that my husband happens to be chair of, that I happen to know are, not only were elected, so you would have known from the election, but were sworn in, and I have their dates. And so you would have interacted with them as well as seen them on the ballot.
Elected.
They were elected.
So
They should be on this
there's
list
the
as well.
notification.
Right, there's the notification, and they're not on here either. And I honestly, I wanna start at the beginning with this one, because, I asked you back in July for this list, and, your response to my August first inquiry regarding why it would take 5 to 6 weeks to provide the list was, quote, "Everything has to be entered in a computer for correct list to be printed."
Yes.
You then hired a consultant for 18 hours of data entry at a cost of about $1,000. I'm just wondering why now, if it turns out, as based on our earlier conversation, that the list was corrupted in 2017, in November of 2017, that's going on 5 years ago.
Yes,
What have you been doing in the interim?
the rest of my job, it's like I had Justin working.
No, I meant about the boards and committees list. How have you been keeping records of the people that are on the boards and
In
committees?
folders, like manual, like folders in a tote. And
Okay.
so when we had time, we'd keep, it took me 4 years to get it where it is now, but if there's errors, now I have something to work with, because before it was empty, like it was totally empty. So I worked for 4 years trying to get this together.
We're always having to update it with the new people.
Yes,
Would you call the work product that you provided at the end of that period a good example of your work product?
the best I had in my office, because that's all, what's in the computer now is every hard copy that I have in my office that I had since I started here in 2016. Now, before that, and some of the people have, I don't know I don't understand what you're asking me to do. Like everything I have in the computer is hard copy in my office.
Mhm.
If it's wrong, now's the time I'm gonna like expand on that, because before that I had to do the dogs, marriages, the DBAs that were important. So of course, that was the fourth thing
How
I
many
did.
marriages do we have a year? On average,
Four or five, but the
4 or
thing is,
5.
went back 10 years.
so 50.
It's, and you know, everything was time consuming,
Mhm.
and I had people working for me and they would get,
So 50 marriages, how many births would you say we have a year?
I didn't put births in
No
there.
births,
The
okay.
DBAs,
We
there's
have like
about,
3 or 4
what,
DBAs?
there's about 50,
50.
and I have to report to the state, so that was very important to keep my DBAs up to date, because I have to do an accounting every September of the DBAs in town.
I was surprised, because in the annual town reports that I looked at, about half a dozen, there's never more than 3 or 4.
Well,
DBAs.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, I believe, has a DBA, and I have a DBA.
Right.
That's,
Mine may have expired.
she means the money that I collected.
Oh.
Like I say, like $50 or 20, or
That's
That's
not
all
every
that's
year
in there.
fee.
that, because it's for 4 years.
Years,
So,
okay.
yeah. So I worked really hard to keep that program up and running, but I'm willing to work with anybody wanna come sit with me, and we'll just go over every board and,
On behalf of that, I was curious as to why I had to come in and redo my DBA, and then you explained to me
Yes.
about the loss of the hard drives,
yes.
and all the backup was
Yep.
gone from the IT wonder.
And there
Yes.
was no hard copies.
Well, mine started back with Miss Swan.
Yeah, right, I bet.
So it's
Who knows where the hard
so it's
copy is at
22
this point.
years ago, I put
Right,
the
right.
first one in.
And now when people come in, it's been updated, so they have to sign the paperwork,
Yeah, there was a fair amount of paper.
you know? So it's going smoothly. But I'm willing to work on that list, because now I have something to work with.
So your list of, you're concerned with is what else is on that list? This is.
I found close to 60 substantive errors of omission and commission, and that took me a while to find, but mostly because I had to reach out to boards to double check that what was posted on the website or what I understood was correct.
And so these are.
But I gotta tell you, if I had a student hand this in as work,
Well, what,
So I have
I'm missing something here, exactly what was missed?
what
So,
was missed, there are people who are serving who aren't on the list. There are people who are dead, who have been, in some cases, dead for a couple of years, who are on the list.
can you provide one example? I'm not downing, I'm just.
Well, what is the list, first of all, what
Do
is
you
this list?
The list of people serving on Monterey town boards and
Active-
commissions,
Active parts.
committees,
Committees.
committees, I'm not sure which one.
Multi-member bodies.
Multi-member
And also
bodies.
other appointed officials.
Okay,
or
so.
appointed or elected officials.
Design, appointment, design,
Um,
there was one,
I, so,
find him.
but this is elected and appointed.
Owen Wright is deceased.
So my question would be, so elected is very different than appointed, right? So elected, you would know if someone's elected because you do the ballot, and
But
then you know.
this is both, right?
Yes, that's my understanding. So you would know that, when the select board appoints someone, like we're about to reappoint, potentially, I don't know, we're gonna make a couple appointments tonight. How do you find out about the appointment and what's the process from there?
Well, if they bring in their appointment letter, and then they come in to be sworn in,
So if they don't-
We always had an appointment.
So, and I have 2 appointment letters sitting in the select board mailbox
okay,
for the parade committee
for you.
and the BR, and a representative to the BRTA, I believe.
Okay.
I haven't come in to get sworn in for those positions, which are both appointed positions. Would I appear on the list, or would I not appear because I haven't?
You wouldn't appear, because,
Because I think that is something that we need to
A procedure you should-
rectify.
right,
And we should know if people are sworn in or not. Now, I have talked, to my aunt, who is the town administrator in Marlboro, to be honest with you. And I said, what is done with people who don't get sworn in New Marlboro? And she said the clerk can remind them, but at the end of the day, if people don't come in to get sworn in, someone could potentially challenge the validity of a board decision or an appointed officials, but that doesn't usually happen, and usually it just sits where the person's appointed. They may or may not go to the meetings, and may or may not be listed as members present in the minutes and partake in official decisions, but they're not sworn in and they're not official. But I don't think this is a problem unique to Monterey, but I would like to work towards a solution to where we can know if someone's appointed, even if they aren't sworn in. And
Okay.
so, a project that I had done this past winter was to try to go through the select board minutes to, reach every appointment and try to compile them into one place. I made it back in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and I didn't hit the big appointment, which is at the end of June. That big, when a lot of people are appointed.
For 2021?
For 2020, I had done it this spring or winter. I just remember that it was very time consuming. Another thing that unfortunately happens is people are unofficially phased out of committees where they may have been appointed and then they've never been, like we have fire department, people appointed to the fire department who no longer show up on the list. It's an indefinite appointment, but the select board never unappointed them.
They just aren't part of the.
And they never formally resigned.
Right. They
There's
just
nothing
disappear.
official. And so I think what happens is the fire chief speaks to the town administrator and they just kind of get removed from the list. I'm not saying that's right or that's wrong, but it's in everyone's interest for the town's record keeping to be able to
Have a formal process.
have a better system of record keeping. And I think part of that is, we can't have people not showing up on the list because they're not sworn in, but we do want to know that they're not sworn in.
Okay.
I don't know exactly where that's headed, but
Alright.
that would be a good
Do you have
thing.
any thoughts for, the elected people on here ought to be on here. And you did have knowledge of them because you handled the election.
Oh, no, I understand that. I was trying to get, I was trying to do the best I could to get you a list. And yes, the selectmen should be on there but I also see with the select board, with the elected people, I have to do this form for Boston every time somebody's elected, so I do that faithfully and
But they didn't get entered into the list.
into this one, yeah. So,
Well, I do see select board listed as Susan Cooper and Justin Mako,
yes,
but I think there are other elected
Well, like I said, the
positions that have not
bylaw
been
review
kept up
committee,
Mhm.
Pauline Jefferman and Stuart Litwin, and Mari.
So Mari and David
Mari's there.
Myers are listed on.
Mari and David Myers are listed,
So do you,
except I think that Mari expires 11/24/23, but
well,
whatever.
no, because it's appointed, it's now it goes with the election.
Sworn in May 17th, not December 4th.
but it's something I can work with now that I
No,
have a
there's-
chance.
Sorry, I'm
December
sorry, I
4th
wrote,
is the
not
open meeting.
5/17.
The sworn date
It is
is
May
5/17.
17th, so yeah, that does coincide. So Mari's there. Pauline Jefferson and Stuart Litwin are not. Jeff was sworn in on December 1st, 2021, right after the election. I think that's what my handwriting
Do
says.
you remember swearing in
Pauline was
Jeff?
sworn in after the election.
Zimmerman?
Do you remember swearing in Jeff Zimmerman, Pauline Banducci, or Stuart Litwin into the bylaw review committee? Okay, so they're missing from the list.
Okay.
Right.
So we need to make sure that the list is complete.
Michael Banner was elected to the cemetery. Is that elected or appointed?
Cemetery committee or commission is elected.
Yep, so he was missing from the cemetery committee. The conservation commission is missing too, they're appointed though. Cultural council, I'm not sure which of these are elected and appointed, I will confess.
Cultural council's appointed.
Some of the election workers, there's like a duplicate, there's ones that are, I'm not sure whether they're noted. The finance committee, Rebecca Wolin.
Can we
on
move
the
to the
finance
next
committee anymore?
question?
We can, but I'd like some closure on this one.
Well,
I understand it's a
closure looks
work
like
in
it's just as
progress.
much our default as anybody else's, is that not right?
No,
That's
because the
fine.
elected ones were totally on her plate.
That's true.
And
I'll-
she
yeah,
gave, she didn't say this is a work in progress, she said, here's my finished product.
Gotcha.
I took it as a finished product.
I would have too.
Right, so again, communication error.
Okay.
It's a big deal though, because,
It
you know,
is.
I think that in the 4 or 5 items that we've gone through, I can honestly say that the entire evening has been spent on communication issues. And that's what we really should be working on. I think it's,
well, the
unfortunately,
next
a
two
grand
are a
waste of
little
time.
less communicative.
Okay.
If we could just all agree that we need to talk to each other more and be available to each other.
Okay, number 6 is,
This is just,
this should probably be quick, but I did include one thing, and I have
Which one's six?
Provided
Party
document.
submission
So,
of the state.
number 6 is failure to submit to Division of Local Services as soon as possible the Main Town Meeting vote on establishment of OPEB trust fund. So you did provide a certified annual town meeting report for the May 7th annual town meeting on May 25th, 2022.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that you didn't submit to the local Division of Local Services the May town meeting vote on the establishment of the OPEB trust fund until when is August?
August
And,
But if you had the certified,
No, sorry, the 12th.
if you had the certified town meeting report and you'd gone through, what was the cause of not submitting that information to the Division of Local Services?
it was the first time I had ever done that in all my years of working, and an oversight. And as soon as it was brought to my attention, it took me like 2 minutes to fill out the form and scanned it to,
The DLS?
in Boston, and I asked her if I had done anything wrong, and she said, well, you didn't break any laws. She said, don't worry about it, I have it. She said, because it was my first time.
I just, again, we have significant communication issues. So the TA sent you an email on July 19th about it.
Yeah.
She then sent you another email on August 4th. And you didn't answer, respond, or in any way to either of them. Finally, on the 11th, she asked me to intercede and send it to you, and you did it, but that's not a great, you have a problem with the system. I mean, at this point, I suppose she would have known to go directly to Justin, I suppose, to ask you to do it, but it's really awkward, this system.
Okay.
I mean, I understand that you have issues with Ms. No, and it's a small town. I guess Justin is willing to be the point person, so I guess I shouldn't complain.
Well, I have, I mean, it is a difficult, it's an awkward situation. I've witnessed personally some of the precipitating events, unfortunately. As to the breakdown in communication. And we've never resolved things and made amends since, or taken, any action to put the issue to bed.
How would that happen? How could it happen? You refuse to talk to her, she refuses to talk to her, she won't go to mediation. I don't see a method for allowing it.
I was told that I'm not to email Melissa or speak to her, so I don't.
Can I ask you who told you that?
Justin did, he's my liaison now.
Okay, all right.
So this was a recommendation made by
I understand.
the
I get
HR
you,
director.
I get you.
And I don't know if Susan and I were entirely clear on what direct report meant when we
Or
approved,
how long it would go on.
when we approved that I would be the direct report to Terry. I wasn't fully aware of what that meant, and then I spoke to Sophia, and Sophia explained to me that I was to be the intermediary on communications between Terry and Melissa. And it's something that I've been willing to do. It is clumsy. I don't don't have the answer, unfortunately.
And I mean, no one has suggested anything that could remediate this situation. I mean, I think it's important at this point to point out, we have done many of the things that were suggested in the report. We have an HR director, we've addressed the harassment policies, we've, I think we've addressed a lot of policies in town hall, and I think we've cleaned up a lot of things. But I don't see anything more we could do.
Well, can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I worked a 17-hour day on the day of the state primary, 6 AM to 11 PM to make sure our votes were in. I forgot to put that one of those pieces of rubber, I tripped on it and I was afraid Mary Makeup would fall with her walker.
I'm only laughing because the irony here
Yeah.
is that that device is supposed to be to prevent people from
Right.
tripping. It's ironic.
So then,
That's the
what
only
I-
reason I'm
what
laughing,
I-
not because you tripped.
so what I did is I stood it up on the side of Melissa's filing cabinet with the little green, tag on it over there. So when she was accusing me of taking town property and I heard the
I watched it, she said that it was missing, that it's not accusing anyone of stealing. I think the assumption was that it had been misplaced, but I just don't want any further accusations.
I have a picture, I took a picture of it, and she was 2 feet away from it when she said that it was missing. It was right behind our desk.
I didn't
So-
see it either, and I was sitting in here at the time.
So anyway, you say all these resolutions are happening, but this was just last week. And now on today's agenda, it says to thank the town clerk for returning the items, the missing items. But it wasn't missing, it was right there, and it saddens me because it looks like all this happy stuff is going on, like mediation, all this stuff, but yet it happened last week. And I feel very saddened and disheartened because I would never steal that piece of rubber off the floor.
No one said that you stole it. It was missing because she couldn't find it. It wasn't where she expected it to be. And I can't speak for you, but I had a household with a child, and I've lived in household with other people. And it's a thing that happens, that someone moves something or
Okay.
borrows something.
Okay,
And if you've had children and you have grandchildren, I think you know what I'm talking
I
about.
know what you're talking about, but, I don't wanna argue about this, but it should have been my liaison that came to me in private and said, where did you put it? Rather than go on the selectmen's meeting and say it, like to humiliate my hard work for the day. Justin could have came and said to me, did you hide it or did you put it somewhere? And that would have been resolved without bringing it before the board and all the townspeople that,
That's fair.
okay? That's all I ask is to not bring everything I do before the board, but let Justin come and say, where did you put it?
So essentially, Melissa would have needed to bring it to Justin, who then
Yes.
would have brought it to you.
Which actually did happen to some degree, because I had a meeting with Melissa on Monday when we were setting the agenda. I had somewhat of I had scheduled a meeting with Gary Shaw, my phone died, he ended up seeing my truck and stopping in, and Melissa said, I have a question for Gary. And Gary and I were in here, and Melissa said, do you know where the strip thing is? And Gary and I did not know. And then I think I talked to you on Thursday and you said, yeah, I know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in the intervening 2 days, we had the select board meeting. It was not on the agenda to get brought up at the select board meeting. We were discussing where to hold elections and that item was interjected into the conversation. And it's really just, sorry state of affairs, that it's consumed our lives to this at all.
Yeah. I mean,
And yeah, it stinks.
I would agree.
Does that,
No, there's a primary warrant as well,
For what?
the state primary warrant.
where is that?
Sorry, I have to read it. Not the draft minutes,
I
sorry.
don't see it on
Issued some setting back of pro IT here. Oh, it's not. That's my bad. Yeah, incorrect advice regarding special election, financial, county election, no, sorry. Okay, I guess I'm not allowed to mention it, but then you need to come back another day so we can discuss it. Your call.
Donna, I have a question. Sorry, I thought you were gonna unmute, but now I realize I should have just spoken. We should just stick to what's on the notice that was delivered to Terry, for what we're discussing at this meeting.
So the notice is what is required under the law to give Terry notice of what is going to be discussed. She can waive that if she's willing to discuss this other issue tonight. If she's not, then you can't discuss it tonight, and it would need to be for a separate meeting.
Terry, do you,
Do you understand what the next question is?
No, so I
Okay.
don't wanna talk
Okay,
about
nor
it.
do
so I believe, if I can mind read from Susan, that it's about the state primary election warrant, that there was a lot of back and forth on about the names of the districts and counties.
Mhm.
Do you want to, you have the right to say we shouldn't discuss this because it is not on the posted notice.
Mhm.
If for any reason you want to, you also have the ability to waive that right, and we can discuss it at this meeting. What would you like to do?
And there's one
Your
more issue to
advice of
discuss
counsel,
at some point, and it's up to her.
One second, Jared, you can speak to your client.
thank you. With the advice of counsel, we are not going to waive, we will not be discussing any additional issues.
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken,
I'm fine.
Terry, you want to stick to what was on the notice and
Yes,
not waive your
please.
right?
I'm fine with that, as long as we can have another meeting, not October 12th, to finish the discussion of the other items, and I'm willing to state what they are now, so she can be prepared.
Okay.
Don't think you need to.
Well, am I gonna have to issue another formal letter with formal items
Yes.
that will formally be addressed? That's
Yes.
fine, then I'll
I'd
do
like
that.
you to comply with the law and put her on notice with the allegation.
Who knows?
Okay.
Alright,
Okay, so we have discussed 6
Mhm.
listed items, and come to a variety of conclusions. We have not actually voted or motion on these items, but the next step, as I laid out in the process of this meeting, is at this point, the board should discuss whether it wants to take any disciplinary action, whether it's no discipline up to termination. Some examples might include a verbal warning, a written warning, suspension, a performance improvement plan, or any other disciplinary item as it relates to these 6 charges or complaints that we just discussed.
First of all, was there full 6?
What's that?
Did we discuss 6 of them?
Yeah.
I think we did.
I thought we went.
That's my
about the last one.
So, I don't know, a little summary, I'm not gonna speak, I can't speak on behalf of the board because we didn't motion and vote on these. I think we discussed the failure to appear for work at the hours set by the select board. And I don't think it's a disciplinary item because it was still under negotiation. And I don't think it was a bona fide, example of insubordination because of that ongoing negotiation. We discussed failure to appear before the board in a timely manner to discuss work-related issues, and I think there was a general consensus that we want to accommodate around Terry's personal ongoings, but we do sometimes need to meet, and we are willing to meet on non-Wednesdays as that, if that works any
Can
better.
I further that? Can we come to an agreement of what a reasonable time frame to have a meeting would be? Because 5 weeks isn't reasonable for me.
No, I don't think 5 weeks is reasonable. I think
A week is fine.
a week works for me.
That's.
I mean, I think it depends on the issue, but that's generally how we operate.
I mean, the next day seems, that's ridiculous, so a week's fine, right, yeah.
We discussed the list of current board and committee members, and we discussed that with appointed officials, the select board needs to clearly communicate a list of people that we appoint to multi-member bodies or just as officials, so that Terry can have all those people listed, whether or not they're sworn in. We can also know that they're not sworn in, and that I believe Terry should review all of the election ballots and any possible resignations to ensure that all of the elected positions are listed, whether or not they've been sworn in. And that the list is far from complete in its current state. And that needs to be worked on. Issue number 5 was.
Should we have a date by which we expect a cleaned up copy to appear? I realize that we have another election coming, but I'd like it not to be another 4 or 5 years, you know?
Yeah.
When do you think you could provide that?
In the middle of November, like with the election, I got the special town meeting and then the election, so I'm really busy for a while. If you want it before there, I'll just try and work hard, more.
I don't know that we necessarily need it before then.
Okay, the middle of November.
I would say let's give you the time you feel you need to properly give it.
Okay, a good copy,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, and elected, appointed people, we wanna know if they have been appointed or elected and haven't been sworn in as well. The next item was an issue concerning backup of critical data and IT providers, so we relayed to, I don't know if I have already relayed to you yet, but we are relaying to now that we agreed at our last week's board meeting, Tom Roy does need to get into your computer and back up to the town server, just because we need all of our data backed up and in control of it and in one place.
Of course.
And you have the right to be present while he's doing that, but we need that. And then item number 6 was about the failure to submit to DLS as soon as possible the main town meeting vote on establishment of an OPEB trust fund. So we are told by someone from the DLR, Lisa, Deputy Chief, that the months that it took to submit that between May, June, July,
Thanks.
and August, so the 3 to 4 months that it took to submit that is against the procedural guideline recommended by DLS, but that you did not break any state laws. And the board is aware that you made this mistake, but that
Oversight.
an oversight and, just to be careful, what needs to go to the Attorney General's office, which I think you're more familiar with.
Yes.
What needs to go to DLS if there's a loan, or in this case, the establishment of a trust fund, and now you're aware of that.
Yes.
That's just to go through some of the items that we listed. Um,
How do we want to address ensuring that we have better communication and sort of adequate turnaround on things so that, as it is with OML, we know that sometimes it takes us weeks to, yeah, I know, weeks to actually come to a decision. Anything that worsens that is definitely undesirable. I don't have a lot of employment experience, so I don't know how to structure a formal situation so that we have confidence that matters will be dealt with expeditiously. I don't know how to structure that, so maybe we need advice from Sophia, but I feel like I would like to have the confidence going forward that when we ask a further question, we get a clear answer, we're certain where it came from.
And that it's accurate.
And that it's accurate.
So, and I think one thing that will hopefully work in the right direction, and one thing that I pushed when we were setting the new hours, Terry, was having 2 non-consecutive days, because as clumsy as the system already is, too often, and of my own fault, but, I'd ask a question and get a response on Thursday, and I might not have gotten back to you on Thursday, and then I missed you for the week. And I think that's one small step in the right direction.
I think it definitely contributed, yeah.
and now that you're working Wednesdays, you know, it may also be easier to schedule into a regular select board meeting. We discussed about also scheduling into other non-regular select board meetings. But yeah, I mean, it's clumsy and it's not really working well for anybody involved. Or in my opinion, I don't know the right solution considering all the factors. They're- I don't know. I've been working on do this for over a year. Not paying dividends per se, but
It is, because we're all here in this
Yes.
meeting right now.
Yes.
And I think we all understand there's great communication issues, grand animosities. We need to break those things down and, as Bill Belichick says, do your job. We, Melissa, you, everybody in this building needs to realize that they're part of a wheel and that we can't be one spoke that's the loose one that's causing the wheel to wobble. It's
whenever-
easy to forget and to sit there and to dislike somebody and therefore shut them out. But it's harder to open that door back up. So we gotta keep remembering that. We can't close that door behind us. We always have to keep the door open for the possibility of resurrection. And this is what we have to do as of today. I believe that you want to do your best job.
Yes.
I have faith that you do. I have faith that the board wants you to. We want to find a way to make your job as comfortable for you as possible and as productive and fruitful. That was the board's task when I left, is that we all wanted to make certain that any employee was given what they needed to do their job to their best. Not to feel intimidated or pressured, and not to give erroneous information, but, you know, your daughter needs something, for God's sakes, that's what your daughter needs. Tell us that, okay? If you've had the issue with the too many people in the room, too much this, too much that, that's the information that goes out. I think we all just have to, we can't make it happen unless we make it happen. So my thought is, I don't have any penalties to be placed upon you for all that this has transpired. I do just say that we've got to all communicate better. And it doesn't hurt to type a letter with no animosity in it and send it to NNO, clarifying what you're doing, if that's it. It's not like you're going in there and saying, hey, Melissa, guess what I'm doing? It's just a typewriter, you and a screen. It gets the message out. CC, let people know, all of us. You know, we've just got to find a way to extend the olive branch, to understand that we're all faulty and that we're here to try to get this stuff away. We really need to get away with this nonsense of pointing fingers and allegations. And let's just get back to work. It would make it so much easier. Now, I'm not trying to coerce anybody into doing anything, but I just think that the sooner we put aside our differences and realize that we're here for one purpose, the sooner that purpose can be achieved.
And I agree, I just wanna say, when there are other issues, do we need to formally serve you with a letter listing the issues and posting an executive session every time we need to converse with you? I just need to know if I'm gonna have to do that every time.
No, because when I first started in 2016, because I love my job, and I would go to the select, they would invite me in every week, and I'd say my accomplishments for that week and my goals for the next. And I did that for like 3 years, and they liked that, because they
It's
knew what I
useful.
was doing,
Yeah.
because they said, we don't know what you're doing in there, so I would do my goals for the next week and what I'd accomplished for that week. And to me, that was communicating. And then we got new members in and they didn't want me to do that, but I'm willing to let you know what I'm doing in there, you know? It's not as top secret, but
No, it isn't, and I think that's helpful.
I think it's helpful
I mean,
too.
we always had people coming into the meetings. That was the whole point of having a meeting,
yes,
was so that people could come in and say, man, I'm having a problem with this.
right.
The the treasurer. You know, we had such problems with the treasury for a long time that even the treasurers didn't know what they were doing sometimes, you know, not through any fault of their own, but just through the way the system had fallen apart.
Mhm.
And we wanted to help them, and they realized that, and it took a while to get the proper help to them, but you can't tear them down when they're looking for help. They gotta be bad, you know, you gotta concrete
Yes.
the foundation. You gotta have a good foundation.
So I think, you know, we have documented a couple of issues, like the list of board and committee members that
Yes.
needs to be updated. In particular, because that's an ongoing project, I think, you know, the failure to report in a timely fashion to the DLS, you know, that happened and you'll be alert for that.
Yes.
But if we can work on those, performance issues, and meet deadlines with good work product, I think that is important, and hopefully the better communication will help us all work in that direction. And then there's a couple other items where, you know, there was a disagreement between the board and you, like over with the Tom Roy accessing your computer. The board's made a decision, and you're gonna comply with that decision, and it's that simple. But we need obviously compliance there. And then we don't run into more problems, and that would be good for everybody.
And extra backup is good. Go use that stick.
Oh, yes, yes.
Extra, but there's like,
Mhm.
duplicate backup is never a bad thing.
Yes, I need to follow that. Other than that, I would motion, no, actually, you know what? We wanna approve Donna. Rather than, would it be legal to approve a set of executive session minutes while we're in executive session? We
Yes,
have
you
it posted later, we
you
have
can
it
do that.
posted later in open session, but we can't really do it without breaching the reasons why we entered executive session to begin with.
Yeah, so in general, you can approve executive session minutes in executive session, but they have to be on the agenda.
Okay, if they're on the agenda under the open meeting portion of this session, is that?
Yeah,
So we can do it under executive session? In
yes, you can.
executive session, even though we posted it under open
What-
meeting?
What you need is you need to have a vote to continue the executive session, to take up in executive session this issue that was on the open session agenda.
But at the same time, we would dismiss the clerk and her counsel, because that's what we would do.
Correct.
So I would move that we dismiss the clerk and her counsel from this executive session. And that's the first motion. Second, any further discussion or comments? There being none, we'll call vote. Susan?
Yeah.
Scott?
Yes.
Justin, yes, and the motion carries, so Terry's gonna leave the room, Jared's gonna leave the call.
Thank you very much for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, guys.
Look forward to working with you.
Yes, I love my job. What can I say?
I've heard you say that for about 10 years now.
I know I do.
Only six.
Six
Well,
now.
seems like it.
It counts.
Okay, Don, we can let you go as well, yeah, as long as you can guide me through this last item, which is that I would move that the board continue the executive session in order to approve executive session minutes of August 31st, 2022. That's an appropriate motion?
That's an appropriate, again, stating that you're returning to open session.
What's that?
It's stating that you're going to return to open session.
Yes, and we will return to open session after review of these executive session minutes of August 31st, 2022. So I'll call vote on that motion. Susan will vote.
Yes.
And Scott, yes, and Justin, yes, motion carries. So we will now review the executive session minutes of August 31st, 2022, and then enter into open meeting afterwards. Thank you for your time, Donna.
Yep, take care, everybody. Bye.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, so I don't know if you got copies. These are gonna be hard. They were just too hard
I
to do.
think I had the 31st somewhere, but it's executive session minutes, right?
Yes.
Yep.
These were gonna be too hard to do in open meeting with the topics that are discussed.
Here we go, 8:31, yeah? I could have sworn, didn't we at some point end up
I did ask
distributing
I
them
did ask
with a
Melissa,
colored version?
I did ask Melissa if she could print a copy. Yeah, we did last week. So I'll ask.
8:31.
8:31. I got it.
You got them?
I got it.
You got them? Alright, we are gonna have to go off of one copy, which can be anyone's. I'm happy to do it if we want.
And we all have one, but you can do it, yeah?
So the first
You do yours.
sentence, I added and to return to open session
Can
after.
we just hang on that and not do grammar,
Yes, we won't do grammar.
punctuation and stuff, let's get to the point.
Yeah,
Be back in open second?
yeah,
Yeah.
no,
No.
no,
No, we're
no,
not
we're-
in open session.
just, but you
We're
can come
still
in.
But you can come in, we're doing the executive minutes from 8:31.
Okay, so the first edit, I just moved into return to open session after executive session as part of the motion. The next, just stop if you have a comment. Just provide a history for Scott's benefit, blah, 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 and the clerk's attorney's response to that letter. The board asked Attorney Brewer to weigh in on the letter and to comment on how it might affect the town's litigation strategy.
Are you blue and I'm red, or?
I'm red.
You're red and I'm blue,
Yes.
okay.
Rather than the requested. Attorney Brewer said that the proposal was close to what the board requested, but falls short with 2.75 discretionary hours rather than the requested set hours for the full 19.75 hours.
Mhm.
Donna replied that Ms. Snow was present in town hall. Just did not feel that the clerk's proposal of Gary Shaw present and working as town clerk staff on Wednesdays would be a burden on the town since he is going to be present and working at some point during
Yeah, this is over.
during the town clerk's hours anyway.
Sure, that works.
So I'm gonna delete as, and I'm gonna delete that blue part.
Mm-hmm.
Susan asked what qualifies as harassment communication. Susan was actually referring to if every communication could be considered harassment and it's difficult to work with a person. Scott added that he remembers the day that Ms. Walker was appointed when he was on board, and remarked that over the years, he has watched a number of town clerks spiral downward dramatically. He wanted to know what it would cost to hire Terry, and noted that former town council had advised the former select board that it was best, right? Best, rather than
That was best.
best, right?
Yes, I had that.
To state no cause when terminating. At all, the town violate Terry, the town. Don advised that since
Is it non-violent reasons or non-violative?
if there are none,
Volative.
Then if there are non-violent reasons,
Volative.
volative?
Volative, like inflammatory.
No, violent is in violating a rule. Is what I think it's supposed to be.
we said we weren't gonna do grammar, why don't we do,
Great, sorry.
Well, at least you gotta get the word right, but it's.
Yeah. Still executive session. Non-violative, can we just go with violative?
Sure.
Don advised that since we knew the lawsuit, and other than never interacting with the town.
I think that should just be town administrator period.
Okay, we're
Just skip
we're
ever
going to
again.
keep administrator in.
Are you down to 6 yet?
No, we're on
No, we're on 5.
I'm still thinking.
Okay. Justin asked for guidance on how to proceed regarding the proposed office hours for the town clerk, and advised that the board should put a special obligation and request office hours that work best for the town.
Yeah, and just ignore mine.
Donna,
You
Yeah,
amended
we'll
it anyway.
delete
Yeah.
Donna recommended response to the clerk, the board should recognize that previous hours were provisional. Oh, Jesus.
What's the oh Jesus part? It's only one more page.
The board discussed the schedule
For the clerk that will best serve the town. Yeah.
Best serve the town. Justin made a motion to set the office hours as follows. Susan thought the letter should come directly from the board. Attorney Brewer noted that this situation was slightly unusual and that Terry had asked that all of Attorney Brewer's communication should only be to Terry's attorney, which is unprecedented in her experience, and that this was likely to cause further delay. I don't know how this works, but it does. The motion was amended to have the letter come from the board and have Attorney Brewer edit the letter now and send it to the board during the meeting tonight, so that it can be finalized.
That's gotta be a first, oh my
And the
god,
motion was
Justin.
seconded, the motion carried.
We were like, I don't know, in the ether commuting
Oh, you know
there.
what, this next thing we're gonna delete the whole paragraph and recognize, oh, Justin thought, or Susan?
Justin, was this a rewrite? Justin, the
Yeah,
very
we'll delete that.
attorney group, this is it, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
So we're gonna delete that whole paragraph because
we
it
already
shouldn't
did it.
exist. The board may return, oh, I just moved, the board may return to executive session once a final draft of the letter is received from Town Council. So main edits, first page, a little delete ads, yeah.
Right.
I kind of laid out, it's really only a couple words other than that last paragraph. I would motion to approve August 31st, 2022 executive session minutes as amended and not released for public, not released to the public at this time.
At this time.
Okay, second,
Second, motion.
yes,
Roll call vote, Susan, yes.
Yes.
Scott,
See,
yes, and Justin, yes, and the minutes are approved. Just initial that. Scott,
alright, now we're done with the executive session at 7:30. Oh my god. It's gonna be a new record even for us.
alright, yeah, we might have to do some stuff.
You think?
Alright, I would move that the board return to, open meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
no second.
No second, we're just staying in executive session, going home, sneaking out the back
Alright,
door.
I'll call a vote on the motion return to open meeting. Susan,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
and Justin, yes, motion carries, and we're returning to open meeting.
Alright. Meeting warrant.
At 7:30.
Welcome all those of you who stuck it out
Yeah.
that long, holy
So-
crow.
It is 7:26 as the board is returning to open meeting.
Tell you.
Anybody in the hall that needs to be notified?
No.
You guys were the only holdouts.
We're still here, and that's
Okay.
that.
If there's no objection,
I object.
were you just waiting to get your coat?
No.
That's good to hear, cause that would have been a sad story.
Yeah.
Bears.
That's what it's here for.
If there's no objection, would the board like to move new business number 11, accept donation from the Friends of the Monterey Library toward the library building project loan to the first item in this open session?
Yeah, sure.
No objection. So Mickey Jervis is here. Mickey Jervis, you're here on behalf of the Friends of the Library?
Friends never trusted us.
Oh my gosh.
Money?
Yep.
Bribery?
So. let's
Why are
open
you guys
this up.
giving us money? You guys need it.
It's the actual money.
Yeah.
So,
Is it the money? Maybe?
No, Justin has the letter, he can read it.
okay,
Okay.
to address to the select board dated September 19th, 2022 on Friends of the Monterey Library letterhead. Dear board members, at the request of the trustees, the Friends of the Monterey Library will be making a donation to the town in the amount of $25,000. This donation is to be used to reduce the balance of the loan taken in support of the library building project. Together with the town appropriation of $100,000, this will leave a balance of $875,000 to be financed this November. Sincerely, Carrie Bella, President of the Friends. Thank you.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. Amazing, that's amazing.
It's not coming out of my pocket, well, some of it is.
No, but still, that's amazing that you guys
It's,
raised it. It's
It's
really
something that
impressive.
we felt that we could do, that we should do, the money was raised for the building project, a lot of it was specifically for that, and,
When did you start that raising? Was it after the building was
No.
finished?
no, it was before. Actually, the reason we got to start the building quickly was that the Friends supported it before the grant came through. Before we had any money, before loans were taken, we had a lot of the building done. First loan was taken in January, and we had been building since September. So, the Friends supported that.
So who knows how that money gets, does it just go into the general fund?
No, I don't know how a copy of this went to Sarah Hunter. I will mail it tomorrow if you guys approve this, accept it, I guess. And then,
That's the question is, how is it accepted?
So,
So someone needs to deposit it, either give it, if Mark doesn't know how to do it, you can give it to me and I will deposit it and put a copy of this letter.
And so it,
And
because it
then
has
what's
to
it
be
go, what account does
specifically,
it go into?
So she'll create, if there isn't already a library donations account, she'll create a library donations account.
And that goes, how does it get used?
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
So
Yes.
because of this letter, it'll be only for the loan, so I'm assuming once we,
Ah,
pay
gotcha.
so when,
the
so when,
I
ban
got
comes
you. So
due
the-
in
yeah.
October,
So this is just going directly towards the loan.
right.
yeah, it goes directly towards the loan for no other use.
and I think, we've been doing $100,000 the last few years.
Should've read it.
Yeah, that's what was appropriated, and actually what was appropriated was $104,188.33, because the $4,188.33 is interest. And so 100 from the town appropriation and 25,000 will be paying down 125 this year instead of just 100.
Right, nice.
So one thing that we've run up against in the past is that the select board has to accept donations made to the town, formally.
Yeah.
So I am not certain that, it's necessary, but I would make a motion that the select board, on behalf of the town, accepts this donation of $25,000 from the Friends of the Monterey Library toward, reducing the balance of the loan of the library building project.
Second.
Second, is there any discussion or comment?
It's amazing, thank you so much. That's my only comment.
It's just a nice thing to be able to do.
It's a nice thing to have you do.
No,
I-
it's really nice.
Okay, so we'll call
Yeah,
vote.
bye.
It was either a
2 yeses
vacation or
from
that.
Scott and Susan, yes from Justin, motion carries.
Right.
And thank you to the Friends of the Library for the generous donation. Okay, we will get right into old business. So, citizens, or Ellen Coburn has raised that the rules of order that the select board has have not been being followed 100%. And that is incumbent upon me as chair to recognize speakers and be fair in doing so, and make sure that speakers abide by the speaking rules. I will attempt to do better in moderating these meetings, but I also wanted to provide this for Scott. It's got number 1 on it, because this predates Scott's time on the board. Well,
I
this
had it a minute
this
ago.
term on the board. I could read through the whole thing, but
No, I read it. I'm
Okay.
just trying to find where it is, so it could be right in front of me here.
You want another copy? I can give you one.
Nope, here it is.
if at any point anyone wants to amend these rules of order,
Well, where are these rules of orders written?
They're actually posted on the
Good,
select
so then
board
I
page.
waive that we read this.
okay. Yes, so the rules of order are on the select board's webpage.
Or I move that we waive the reading of.
Yeah, if there's the general consensus that we will not read these into the minutes, but that the chair, that I will try to follow them more closely to ensure orderly discussions. The next item is the draft special town meeting warrant. Since last week, we've learned that, we revisited the estimate that was given by Jim and realized that in the $26,500, we had left out the logging truck and the extra allowance to ensure any overages can be covered, and then we have enough to complete the project, because it is an estimate. So we had mistakenly used the $26,500 figure. Now we're working with $29,580 for the Bidwell Park and the community center. We also received free cash certification 2 days ago, and the town's free cash available is $512,836, so just over $500,000. With the tree works in particular, how would the board feel about focusing this special town meeting on just Bidwell Park, rather than doing both projects?
I'm okay with it. I
I'm
think
okay with
the
that.
community center project can legitimately wait, till next year. And maybe these storms will give us a clearer idea of how much of it really needs to be done.
And maybe we'll have more storms to deal with up there.
Are we still doing the unpaid bills, or are we gonna use free cash for that, or what do you wanna do?
So, there's a bunch of questions, I wanna
Right.
even get through the tree.
I'm sorry, you just
first.
said, I wasn't sure if
Oh,
you
yeah.
were saying all or just of those.
Oh, no, just
No,
of
that's
those
fine.
two.
I agree.
So, and bring up, Melissa, by any chance, do you have an updated copy of my revised letter about the tree work?
Yeah, it's in there, I think it's toward the back, it's like 16P or.
Oh, 17B.
Yeah.
Oh, I got numbers from last week too. Hmm.
Okay, I get it.
I preemptively, because of discussion last week, had the sense that maybe we would just do the Bidwell Park project, and I drafted, does it say at the beginning of the special town meeting, it has 2 articles or 1 article?
And article.
For tree work at Biggle Park, yep.
Oh, I asked for me not to receive a copy of it, and now I'm confused why I don't have a copy. So,
I can print you one if you'd like.
no, I have it on my computer, I just,
Right,
uh,
been there.
print for 9/21.
So what is your question regarding 17B?
So
And the
this,
monies.
oh geez, why does it have a random active? Oh, you're still. So do we approve this as a board to go into the Monterey News, to go on our website, take a look at it? This special town meeting warrant. It's related to what we put in last week, but it's updated.
That's fine with me, we gotta ask it from somewhere. And knowing that there's 512 certainly made me smile a little bit more than thinking that was running 280. So there's a little more cushion in there than anticipated.
Yeah.
And ARPA seems to be something that
It's a one-shot deal, so.
we don't wanna touch.
Yeah, I'd rather use it for special things that, that we will never accomplish another way, or would be much less likely to.
I mean,
So-
I'm, unless there's,
So the main
Yeah,
there's 2
something
main
else.
changes to this, just to summarize. One is, I said that we're really just dealing with the tree work at Bidwell Park.
Yep.
And then I, changed the numbers to reflect the increased costs that we're all aware of. And other than that, it generally remains the same as last week when we discussed this. That's the only tree work, unless there's any opposition, that's the only tree work that will be on the special town meeting warrant.
Looks good, and I think it would be great to have it in the Monterey News.
Okay.
And did the thing the short thing I wrote that we talked about last week about the property issues, is that, did Melissa send that to the Monterey News? Did we want to send it to the Monterey News? It's posted on our website.
The recent land conservation, yes, it's
Yes.
posted on the website, I think we should send it to Monterey
Okay,
News.
so I'll do that, that's what I was trying to communicate,
I
I
think-
thought we had agreed to it, but I wasn't sure if I was free to actually send it
as,
to Steve.
as the board or as,
Either one,
as
we,
just
you know,
sending a.
I can send it, sure.
I think, do you want to as a board? I thought we approved it as a board.
I thought we did
We
too.
did.
Yeah,
So,
so
okay,
board-
so I'll send it as a board.
And then we'll send the article about the tree work as a board.
That's why I
So
was
what do you
confused,
think?
I'm sorry if my email was confusing, what I was trying to do is be like, what happened, we did approve this, what am I supposed to do with it? That was really what that
Yeah,
was.
long meeting.
Right.
Okay, so we will have 2 articles for the Monterey News, including the tree work article, which,
And if we're talking about Monterey News stuff, I gave you guys some stuff at the beginning. I wrote something, I'm happy to put it under my own name if you would prefer, but basically I tried to summarize. I handed it to you, it's under this.
yeah, for Joe.
It's right there. The one underneath that's the permission, it's that one. And you had a yellow sticky on yours.
Which was immediately lost.
Sorry.
I'm
Is
pretty
it
certain I
behind you?
read it. It was
Scott,
an email.
is this you?
No, that was,
No, I just gave it to you tonight, because I drafted it yesterday.
Here's what I would say, you wanna put this in under your
Yeah,
own
I'm
name, cause you're saying
absolutely
Justin
happy
and
to put it over, under my own name, and I have no problem with that. The only thing I would love, especially because you've been here the whole time, is if I made any substantive errors, I would prefer to know. Like, that happens, I'm trying really hard, but I don't wanna have a boo-boo in there that's not okay.
And that's this letter.
Yes.
Yes.
Looks good to me,
Okay.
as far as facts.
Yeah, that was all I wanted, I just, and if you think of anything before tomorrow that should have been on there, because it's something we did and I forgot to mention it, and you think it's a big deal, it's not opinion, I just, like, I didn't include everything we did, my God, that would be a very long list.
Yeah, so you'll put that in
Yep.
our news?
Yep.
Under your name?
Yep.
And then we'll have the two under the select board.
Excellent.
To
Back
return to tree
town
work.
meeting. Yep.
So now that we have free cash, before we get too far, now that we have free cash, we wanna spend the free cash on the tree work at Bidwell Park? Rather than stabilization, rather than
I'd rather,
something else, yeah. free
Unless
cash.
there's a significant reason not to.
I believe that at that special meeting, the form from which it comes from can be bartered.
Right.
And just because we say we're gonna take free cash,
We're suggesting, and then they
Right.
either
I
change
think
it or
that-
not, but what do we wanna suggest?
yes, because I think that our suggestion can become merely that if it seems like stabilization is a more prudent way to take it from.
And the only thing being, certain amendments could be outside the scope of the warrant, but the moderator seems to be pretty lax as far as that's goes.
He's chill.
We're not gonna call him
Well,
lax,
he-
we're gonna call him relax.
Well, some moderators don't allow increases at all.
Well, I'm not
Not
saying
any
an
items.
increase, I'm just
Really?
saying from where the money comes.
Some moderators don't allow increases and others only allow increases up to a certain percentage.
But if we're trying to,
But we're talking about
Put this
which
to
account
bed.
it
Yeah,
comes
we're,
from.
yeah,
let's
so
just say that
we'll
we're
say
gonna
it's free cash, tree work at Bidwell Park.
Okay.
The unpaid bills of $10,001.66. Do we all agree we want that on special town meeting warrant
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to be paid.
out of
Yep.
free cash? Okay, item number
Do we have to deal
three,
with the bill?
yes, but let's do
Oh,
three
where's
first.
that's what's going on, they weren't under the draft special town meeting warrant, so I didn't.
No, well, cause
Yep,
they're
yep.
kind of in the middle
Yeah, I get it.
spot between the,
So we got that letter,
the regional school district planning board chair, Lucy. So at our last meeting, we left it off that maybe they don't need the funds anymore. And we heard back from Lucy, who
Said that you may
somewhat
not.
confirmed, and I have it highlighted, and she said, I'm not gonna read the whole letter, but there have been two encouraging developments that may reduce or possibly even obviate the need for the requested funding at this time. We leave to you the decision whether to table our request until after the supplemental budget is addressed. For those towns that have a special town meeting already scheduled in the next month or so, you may decide that you would prefer to seek authorization at that meeting for up to $15,000 in the event the state funding does not materialize. Either way, we do not plan to ask you to contribute any specific amount until we determine exactly what additional funding, if any, we will need to raise locally following action on the supplemental budget. The reason that I would prefer to not seek authorization at this special town meeting is if we allocate $15,000 to a free cash to this, we can't, I guess if we had another special town meeting, we could take it back out, but that money's tied up, even if it doesn't get spent. So when we go, what we've been doing with free cash generally is spending on whatever special articles we need and then using the rest of it to lower the tax levy for that year. And so that would, if that's what we're gonna, assuming that's what we do generally this year, that would be $15,000 that's tied up and we can't use to lower the tax levy.
Or for any other
so our choices are, we either say up to, get it authorized, but then we have to set it aside even if we don't end up using it, or if they end up needing it, make it another special town meeting? I just wanna make sure I understand.
No,
what the
so if we
choice is.
set it aside,
Option
if we
three.
authorize
Appropriate
it,
it's appropriated and it's like,
Right,
it's a check that you write to yourself, put it
right,
somewhere else.
okay,
And then it's a matter of time before that has to either go, I think, go back into free cash if it gets absolved,
right.
or whether we.
we wouldn't get it till next
Request it.
fall,
What do
probably.
we get, so what other option do we have?
Not putting on the special town meeting warrant. And then if they come back with a request that we find to be valid and it really warrants a special town meeting, we can have another one.
Okay.
But to me, the way that this is written,
I agree with you.
Okay.
so we will not,
The only reason I wanted it on there at all was to raise awareness of the ongoing discussion, but there are other ways we can accomplish that goal, so.
For publishing this letter.
this will be in our minutes, yeah.
Well, it should also be in the town. This is a follow-up to what we were talking about last week. If he wants articles, well, we can give him once for reading. I mean, 'cause here's the reason why we did what we just did, or what we're trying to accomplish.
Or it might be, I think it might be more helpful to write something broader about what's going on with the school, yeah. But
Maybe
I didn't get to
next
that
month
this
or
year, it might be
something.
next month, yeah, I don't think I'm
Don't
gonna
give
get
him
there
too
this
much
month.
one time.
So
I don't think I can write that.
last but not
I'm
least
hungry.
Jeremiah.
is the bill from Jeremiah.
So is this the thing from,
So this is the last item that could potentially end up on the special town meeting warrant. I reached out to Donna, as the board agreed that I should do, and Donna responded, but it's not simple. She said that he was only providing an estimate, right? So it wasn't an agreement to limit the amount, but there's laws that she cites that we should, the client should be reasonably informed about the status, which in this case, she claims should include when the cost is outstripping the estimate. Another thing that I noticed when I was going through this item was that Jeremiah had said that staff that were not himself that'd be working on the appeal would be billed at $30 an hour.
Yeah.
And no one was billed at $30 an hour.
do we
So
have a breakout of the bill? Oh, is that what's
the
on the back?
breakout of the bill is this, I can show it to you. It's on the,
It's on the back.
it's on.
It's on the back.
Is it on?
Is that it?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
This is the breakout of the bill. This is the invoice September 1, 2022. There is a list of things that were done. And then the breakout is 46.7 hours at $180 an hour.
Okay.
And then the filing, which was $331.31.
That is on this.
Yes,
Wait, it's on where?
that breaks out the two bills, but it doesn't,
Oh, it doesn't include, it doesn't
this is
say
it.
that.
So what Don is saying is that we should do two things. One is say,
Asking for clarity.
yeah, some clarity, this is way above the estimate. you
Right.
know. And then the second thing is any of this supposed to be billed at $30 an hour? We don't have a contract in writing, but there is a certain level of understanding that we're given an estimate and we have to.
Due diligence to the estimate.
So does the board want Donna to proceed with drafting this letter to Jeremiah, or just send this letter to Jeremiah, because mostly just for clarity at this
Yeah.
point?
I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay. I will tell Donna
I
to
mean,
proceed.
we're probably gonna end up paying it, but I'd like to know why we're paying it.
We may or may not,
And
because
this shows the bill.
some of us,
sure.
Break it down.
some of it may be reduced to $30 an hour.
Right.
If
If we raise the
all
issue.
goes well.
Well, it could have been an oversight.
Yep, it totally could have, it's happened before.
But for now, that's not going on the special town meeting warrant.
Okay.
I believe it's in the neighborhood of $6,000 over what we have appropriated. And if it gets negotiated down at all, I mean, I think that we have grounds to request a reserve fund transfer. Not that the finance committee will necessarily approve it, but it would be the amount of money they might be able to accommodate. It's unexpected. We were estimated, look, even if we have an obligation to pay them, we were estimated a certain amount, and then it went over. And I think that's what the reserve fund's for,
The estimate or the overage.
the overage. I mean, we,
So how do we pay the estimate?
we had enough funds,
So,
not quite, to pay somewhere in the middle of the estimated range.
right, so what, do we still have those funds?
Yes,
I mean,
we
that
have
was
20,
appropriated when? That was
town meeting, we got 2,500 for litigation fees,
it.
that was it.
Out of the 9 that he's asking.
Out of the sum of the 9, we requested, you can see it later on, but,
Because it doesn't,
we're, yeah,
it
we're,
doesn't walk you through the whole process, and of course, it was long before I got here.
yeah, so this is what happened,
So there was money appropriated for this litigation.
We used
not
to-
the full amount, and this is what happened.
I understand,
Yeah.
not the full amount, because it went over.
by a significant margin.
So is this guy gonna get any money? I mean, paid something, so he's not like holding his hand in his ass trying to get some money?
Jeremiah,
Well,
we could pay him what we have available to us,
And then ask for clarity on the rest of the
we
bill.
could,
I think we should ask for clarity on the bill and
Well, so do I. I'm just
Yeah.
curious, why, if we think that if we need money, why don't we ask for it? We know we're gonna need it. And
it's
then,
from special town meeting.
yeah, and just put that amount on it, because that amount is a lot less
Well-
than 29,000 or something like
and
that.
going back
it's-
again. it's
And
gonna
we're going down from that amount.
Yeah.
And personally, I would rather have extra set for litigation than not enough.
Well, we can't use it for anything other than what it's,
Exactly, I'm not suggesting
Yeah,
we
yeah,
use
no.
it for anything else.
Right.
I
Mhm.
just would like to know that we have the money if we need it, and I guess we can always go back to another special town meeting, but, hey,
well, those special town meetings should be considered just that.
exactly,
Special,
it
so-
shouldn't be a constant
Right.
thing,
You
right?
know,
So,
we have too many.
right. I know.
So the point being this, Scott, if we pay him the total 4,000 on the higher end of his range, if that's how things shake out, how much would we'd be short, a couple $100?
1,500.
No, because we paid
Oh,
the
because
first
the
bill
previous
last year,
20,
because we went
right.
in this meeting with Jeremiah, and I kind of quoted it in this transcription, this short transcription I wrote. We said, Jeremiah, we don't have a big budget, so we need some bills this year. Because we have money this fiscal year.
Gotcha.
We thought, okay, if we get 1,000, 1,500 in bills this year, we'll have the money to pay the 2,500 that we have next year towards this appeal. So we did get one bill for 522 in last fiscal year.
Mhm.
But that's a pretty small piece. of
Yeah,
it.
it's a pretty small piece. And none of it was billed at $30 an hour.
So we're still looking at $9,000.
No, because we've already paid 522.
Yeah, but I mean,
So we're looking at 8,737.
that's really close to $9,000.
Yeah, she rounded up,
I mean,
and
I round things up.
I know.
I mean, we're talking
But we
$1
have
million.
2,500 of that.
So, but
So we're talking 6,000, we don't have
Yes, right.
6,200
6,200.
plus change.
So you think that should just be a transfer? After the negotiation?
Yeah. So I think we're gonna get somewhere with the negotiation, because
Well, so do I.
we're gonna we're gonna say, your ultimate bill was more than double the
Yeah.
high end. I quoted this transcription's not poor, this is a good transcription, because I did it.
Mhm.
And he said, I'd say you're looking at 3,500 to 4,000 for an appeal, of course, that's on the high end.
Right.
And I don't know, it's an estimate like Donna said, but it would have been due diligence on his part to come back and say,
I'm going
sometimes
over.
things run over, but hey,
Just like she said,
Or in the process?
Yeah.
Okay.
so,
So,
where did that leave
so
us?
your concern is not to put it on the special?
Because if we
Or
don't, and it's like, so let's say we have 2,500, we take that off, it's 6,200 left, right?
Mhm.
Even if he has that,
we need 3,000.
yeah. Like, I don't see a way that we're going to have enough, even if he reduces the bill. I don't think he's gonna say, sure, we're even for $500. I don't think he's even gonna say, sure, we're even for the remaining $2,500, which would be a total of 3,000 approximately,
I
right?
think we need to ask for some money for this.
I do. And I do, and also, I don't want that account to be at zero. I think that's not a great situation.
So this is the question then, because we can always amend on the floor when we know how the negotiations are going.
Right,
What the actual dollar value is.
But,
We asked
you know,
for
my
this.
hesitation of putting it on was to say, we don't really know an amount, but what we can do is we can come up with an amount. Why don't we just put the 6,200, and if we negotiate it down, we can reduce it on town meeting floor, and people,
And do we wanna have that account at zero, a third of the way into the fiscal year?
you really shouldn't, you really shouldn't.
That seems scary to me.
Well, it seems like there's litigation coming forward. So, I don't know how all that's gonna play out.
I don't know
Well,
how
what
that's
if we,
gonna
what
play
if
out
we,
at all.
what if we do the 6,200 plus, a deductible for kind of a general claim, it's $500 or $500 deductible, $1,000 deductible,
So 7,500,
72.
72.
And then work on negotiating it to
Whatever we
something that's fair with Jeremiah.
And if we titch it down on the floor, there's gonna be a lot less upset than if we titch it up, right?
Well, I don't even think it's gonna be upset, I think it's just,
Right.
people need to be told what's going
What's
on
going on, yeah.
and speak to the truth. And
Yeah.
just say, what part of this is in anybody's hands but his.
Right, and that we don't wanna run the account to
Right.
zero a third of the way through the fiscal year, that's scary.
So what we'll do is, if there's general consensus, we will put on the special town meeting warrant the difference between the remaining balance due to Jeremiah and the current amount of 2,500 plus an extra $1,000. That is the amount of some of the deductibles that we have.
Okay.
And that will be in the neighborhood of 72.
7,500, gonna round things up.
7,500.
I know, it's a nice round number, right? We'd rather have the extra $300.
Also, so we will have three things on the special town meeting warrant. We will have 7,500, 7,300.
If you're rounding.
We will have 7,300 roughly, we'll have the exact number. We'll have the tree work, which is
29 plus.
29,580.
29,580, and we will have the unpaid bills from last fiscal year for $10,001.66. We will request all of them out of free cash. In the meanwhile, we will work on negotiating the legal bill down so that hopefully on the floor, we can reduce it to somewhere in the middle.
I got one more thing for the special town meeting, but it doesn't have a price tag, yay. So, okay, with Tom's Tom Sawyer's request from the planning board, I went ahead and researched the issue of the zoning bylaw that is relevant to Camp Camont. So, here is the story. In 2009, there was a special town meeting in April that was accepted by the AG the same year that added the category camp recreational year-round to the zoning bylaws. Prior to that, in the 99 zoning bylaws, there was only camp summer. That bylaw, you can look it up, it's posted on the town website, that was approved, made it by permit only in the lakeshore and business districts. Somehow, and we cannot yet figure out how, the 2012 edition of the written zoning bylaws has camp recreational year-round as a Y in Lakeshore District, means by right. Tom thought they must have approved something at the 2012 ATM or STM, no, no STM of any kind in 2012 had any zoning bylaw on it at all, never mind this. Okay, so according to Donna, after you pass it at the town meeting and you get it approved by the AG, you have to have some written version of it either published in the newspaper or a written document, like zoning bylaws. So far, we have not managed to locate either proof of an advertisement or a written version of the zoning bylaws somewhere in between the 1999 zoning bylaws and the 2012 written zoning bylaws. And this thing was approved in 2009, right? So there should have been another edition in between 2009 and 2012, but there wasn't. I don't even know who did the 2012 version or why it was done, since there were no zoning bylaws done that year. But that's the piece that's missing. If we don't have that written documentation, which I haven't been able to locate, the planning board doesn't seem to have, I've got John Levin looking for it too. The only recourse we have to fix it is to vote on it again in an ATM and then do it properly. We can't just make it a clerical error unless we have a written version of zoning bylaws that has it in there correctly, which we do.
Could a new zoning bylaws document be made now with it in there? correctly?
Absolutely, we could literally take the 2009 one and just vote it in again. Or we
Oh,
could
but it
vote-
does have to be voted again?
Yes, it has to be voted.
What's the time frame?
For what?
What's the time frame? Why couldn't the documentation be done now? It has to be done within a certain amount of time after the vote.
Because there's a 2012 document that has it differently.
Yeah.
Right, it's incorrect in the only written version we have.
She's saying that a written version has to be published after it's approved? I don't think we've ever done that.
There has to be some type of written documentation after its approval and acceptance by the AG, either publication in a newspaper
So where is
Or-
the AG's copy that they approved?
or the zoning bylaws. A version of the zoning bylaws available to the public, but the only version we have that postdates the 2009 change is the 2012 one, which has it in there incorrectly. So I cannot locate a written document with the correct rules that were passed at the 2009 April special town
So you're
meeting.
saying that in 2009 or 2010, there should have been a new set of bylaws written with that new
Something,
bylaw
yeah,
updated in it.
Yeah, and I don't know who
It got
wrote it,
omitted.
but it
It just
yeah,
slipped through.
exactly. There may have been one, but
So
nobody
12
has one.
So is 12 the same one as 9 now, as a Y?
2009, there is no version of the zoning bylaws. The special town meeting warrant
It
needed
said
it
nothing about camps.
by permit only,
Right,
by permit only,
so,
was what we passed.
yes.
But the written version of the zoning bylaws says it's by right, which it is not, because we never approved that. So it's incorrect. Does that make sense?
Why does it change the law just because it's written in 2012 that way?
Because the public didn't have access to it. I don't know, that's what she told me. I'll send you her, if you, with
That
her
would be good.
permission,
That'd be
I will
good.
send you, the email she sent me. But I don't, at this point, unless we can locate some type of written document, I don't see another option other than putting it on a warrant, and I'd like to get it done sooner rather than later. We could just put that 2009 STM warrant right back on and reapprove it that way, and then make the clerical change.
My only concern is that
Grabowski, Melissa?
So I'm confused, so when I'm looking on the town website, the
Uh-huh.
April 2009 special town meeting minutes has on there that has the camp amendment, I'm not
Right,
not
right,
reading the
right.
whole thing right now, and
That's
then
fine,
also on the website is the AG's response
right,
approving.
right,
So
all
that
good.
would be-
But after that, we would have had to put it in some type of written document available to the public concerning the zoning bylaws. In other words, not just the meeting minutes.
what about the AG's response?
But
That's
I don't-
available
right,
to
and
the
that
public
would've-
online.
It would have been
She
the
seems to be
2009.
implying we would have had to advertise it. I mean, that's what I understood
We've
from her.
never advertised once a bylaw gets.
Or put it in written zoning bylaws, but we don't have, the only written zoning bylaw document we have after that is 2012, which is wrong. Right, so I have the 1999 one that doesn't have it at all, and the 2012 one that has it incorrectly, and I cannot find anything in between. If you can, please help, I cannot find anything.
Well, the 2012 would have replaced the 2009.
But
But
it's
there
incorrectly
wasn't a
printed.
2009 edition of the zoning bylaws that I'm aware, there's only that special town meeting warrant, that's it. It was never, like, if you wanted
Wasn't
to
printed
build
each year.
something, right, if you wanted to build something, you weren't gonna go check the STM, right? You were gonna ask for a copy of the zoning bylaws. If you do that now, you see that it's by right, which it isn't. And if you did that in 2008, it didn't exist. And I don't know what happened between 2009 and 2012. In fact, I was in
When-
Australia, so I really don't know what happened.
Melissa, do you remember Muriel and Bob?
Yep.
Lazzarini were so involved with this guy Borkowski.
Yeah, but I think that was in 2006.
So,
No, it was later too.
So,
So I'm just wondering if perhaps this
2017.
firm may have the information with that.
2017,
the 2017 version of the bylaws on here says that
it's by right. In the table of uses,
in the lake shore.
Yep.
Right.
but it isn't. Right.
According to the 2009.
The bylaw we passed makes it not by right, correct, which is when that category was created, it didn't exist prior to that. So it came into existence in 2009 and it was in there always by permit only.
So you just need a draft version of the 2009? Like if I have a copy that if I can find like an email from, because I'm sure it was Maggie Leonard that was on there, where she sent something where it has it the right way, is that what you need?
Well, I don't know, we could run that by Donna.
I'm not sure I have.
So
but
far, I
I'm-
have nothing. So something would be
I
better
mean,
than
to show
nothing.
that the actual paper bylaw packet that we have is
That-
incorrectly printed.
That's correct, because if it was a clerical error, if we did put out something in 2009 that included that, then we can just fix it. But if we didn't, we have to start over, because the 2012 and 2017 ones that had it wrong would be our formal publicly available thing. If you ask for our zoning bylaws, that's what you get.
Well, then
And
have
it's
to
wrong.
put an addendum in with it, just like our code books.
Right,
They're
but what
printed
she's
once
telling
every
me
10
is
years.
we can't just clerically fix it.
so here's my thing, if it's not a clerical fix, my sense is that it should go to an annual town meeting.
Given that virtually every zoning change that I have looked at, and I looked at every annual and special town meeting from 2006 forward, pretty much every zoning change has been in a special town meeting,
Yeah.
some of them on the same day as the annual town meeting, I might add, which caused some confusion for me in several instances. So, while mine might in theory agree with you, the reality of history says that that's pretty much never happened once.
And it's because the planning board's calling these meetings,
I have no idea.
right? Because the planning board
Got it.
does zoning bylaws, right, Melissa?
Typically, yes.
So,
Some of them
so
have
should the
been
planning
from-
board be doing this?
He asked me to do it.
I
No.
would think so, yes,
Yeah.
because they're the ones that have to send all the hearing notices for people to attend and see if they have any comments before it goes to town meeting. And they're also the ones that have to give us the draft and the clerk the draft to keep for people to come view if they want to.
So it's still, he wanted me to research it, but in the end, it would be on them. I have asked them again in another email correspondence today to see what they can find, if they can find a written one, perhaps in here. Theoretically, they're looking, John Levin is looking, you're looking.
So I had the draft of what they sent for changes.
When was this?
I would say the planning board is responsible, they're an active, efficient board at the moment, they have full membership for the first time in a while, and I think that they can handle this, and if they want us to deal with it in a certain way, you know, when it's our time, but,
So you think we just punt it down the road?
no, not punt it,
Well,
but
I'm just like,
you know,
you
tell-
think, right.
tell the planning board,
they-
this
they
is
need-
zoning
they-
bylaws, this is your
Yeah.
responsibility. And like I said, they're a very active board with full membership, they've been meeting every other week very consistently, and I think that they can handle it.
Are we gonna, should I encourage them to try to get the process done in time for our special town meeting?
They should work on this.
Would that be possible given the hearing period?
So I'm just curious, if they have to like propose it as a new bylaw, yeah, there's no way they would make it.
That's kind of what I figured.
So
Okay.
they should do it maybe for a special at the same time as the annual, or
Okay.
something like that.
As an amendment. Because it's already passed.
I know.
We already have
But-
proof that it was
But
passed, not the
but
AG.
as far, it sounds like it's, I don't know, I don't really wanna speak to it, because I don't know enough.
All right,
But
Well,
it
I
does-
will-
it never got printed in our book,
apparently not.
so that's the difference.
Unless somebody, if we can find it, then we can just fix it in the clerical error, but otherwise, we have to go forward the other one.
The AG has the copy of
We have a copy of it, but we never, what she's telling me is it has to have been in a document available to the public as a zoning rule.
So the clerk should have what she sent to the AG. The clerk would have had to send her the whole text.
Right, and the AG, to send the AG the whole text, you mean?
Right, so that would have been a public document available for viewing.
My impression from Donna was that that didn't count. I will send everybody who's interested Donna's response, and you look at it yourself.
Please, and let's also, not punt it, but inform the planning board
Right.
that this is their responsibility.
it. It needs to be
Because,
front and center.
right, the select board can't even propose zoning bylaws, it has to be the planning board. Yeah.
Pretty sure. You guys do general bylaws.
Yeah.
I know that the ZBA put forward a bunch of zoning bylaw changes a number of years ago.
But they did it with the planning board. The planning board held the
Okay.
hearings.
And there's a very strict procedure, they can't do what the select board does and go, yeah, we're gonna add
Okay.
that to the warrant.
So
Um,
I'll forward everything, I'll email them, but I'll CC.
Yeah, I'm very curious to know more about it, but it sounds like it's the planning board's responsibility. The next item is designate early voting hours for state election. I would move that we designate Saturday, October 29th from 9:30 AM to 1:30 PM as the early voting hours for,
October 29th, you said?
yes,
Okay,
at town hall as the early voting hours for the state election. And also any, normally scheduled town clerk office hours during the early voting period. Which has been happening
anyway,
Do we have somebody willing to cover that shift on that Saturday, the 29th? As we have found today, that,
the communication is lacking.
well, no, just
yeah.
that,
we wanna.
without having Terry, it would've been nice if we could've talked to her about that while she was still here. But,
Is Terry-
in fact, Terry.
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Can we borrow you a minute?
What was the time that you said?
9:30 AM to 1:30 PM, that's 4 hours, right?
Yep.
I'm not losing it that much.
Despite lack of dinner? Maybe we should have donuts on the table.
No, we should not.
No. Whoa.
No.
One
I-
donut an hour and all of a sudden you have a dozen donuts. Terry, we're doing early voting hours. Do you know if you are available Saturday, October 29th from 9:30 AM to 1:30 PM? Because we have to do 4 weekend.
Oh, yes.
hours. And then you'll also hold them during your regularly scheduled office hours.
Yes.
Friday.
Okay,
That week.
Sure.
Whatever is during the time period, because I think it's, 4 days to 11 days before the election?
it's Friday, October 22nd, and Friday, November 4th for the state election.
And it ends on that Friday.
Yep.
So you will hold them specifically on Saturday, October 29th from 9:30 AM to 1:30 PM, and also any of your regularly scheduled office hours during the early voting window.
Yes, but I don't know if we can hold them on the 29th because you can't hold them the Saturday before the election. When's the,
The election's the following.
yeah,
in
that's-
November.
yeah.
I'll be here, yeah,
Okay,
that's
Awesome.
fine. That's
All right.
fine.
That was
that's
it.
the motion. Is there any further discussion or comment? There being none, we'll call a vote.
Yes,
Yes, so motion carries. That's our early voting hours. Early voting will take place at Town Hall on Saturday, October 29th from 9:30 AM to 1:30 PM, as well as the town clerk's regularly scheduled office hours during the early voting period. That will be posted on the town website. Item number 6, review executive session minutes to determine if disclosure is appropriate.
No, it is not appropriate at this time, considering there's still lawsuits and litigation going on between said parties.
okay,
That's my opinion anyway.
I'm okay with
And
it.
you asked me for my
Yeah.
opinion.
We did.
So. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, cause my sense was that we should release, those 3 sets of minutes from the 2021. But it's not strongly there, I don't see it as a black and white issue.
I just,
It
I
says
thought
when
that
it matters.
anything that's, I'm not a lawyer, as you can tell, but I think our lawyer would hesitate us to remove those right now after what we were just served last week. There's still parties involved in these minutes that are still involved in these next minutes that it just seems a little too preemptive to just say, okay, everything can go on the table right now.
Yeah, and
That's
so,
just my opinion.
so what,
You guys voted out, like, whatever.
so this was the recommendation.
And I wasn't here for these minutes, so I'm just reading them as like a third, and as a master.
So, and, well, this was the test that she said, right? The Division of Open Government considers the need to preserve the confidentiality of executive session minutes to be over when a matter is considered by the public body to be closed. So is the matter closed? I guess
Well,
it depends
number
on
one,
what you
that's
see
a
the
good
matter
question,
is.
because I don't know how many of those complaints are open or not open. Are any of them still open, or are none of them open? Have they been rectified? Was your complaint against Melissa ever closed, finalized? Is Melissa's complaint against Ms. Walker and Walker's things against them? I mean, it's still wide open here, isn't it? Is there a pin drop?
It's, I mean,
It's
it's,
not listed in there,
yeah.
so I can't comment.
yeah, I mean, it's a hard,
Well, it isn't that hard. You just say, okay, let it fly for a few more weeks, figure out where we're going.
okay.
I mean, I don't see the grand hurry to expose this.
No, what happened was,
If
You
you
know.
saw a reason that I'm not, let me know.
no, I mean, it's hard to say what exactly the matter was, and depending on what the matter was, decides whether or not it's closed. Right?
Well, without going into an
Yeah.
executive session, you can't discuss
Yeah.
the executive session.
So,
So that was my opinion.
Yeah.
And I was tasked with giving my opinion on whether they should be released at this moment or held.
and the reason we were doing this is just, we're supposed to periodically review. Well, actually, there was some confusion because we thought at one point that we had already agreed to release these, and we realized we hadn't already agreed to release these, and we're doing a periodic review.
I
And,
don't think it'll do any harm, we periodically reviewed it,
Yeah.
and decided to leave them a while longer, and we'll come back and review it again.
that works for me.
Okay.
The next is the draft anti-discrimination harassment policy. So I did have a couple questions, mostly about the complaint procedure. I know someone had mentioned the timeline last week. I also thought it should be more clearly laid out, this interaction between the HR director who is doing the investigation and then the select board, because the select board needs to invite, if it's considering potential discipline of an employee, it needs to invite that employee to any executive sessions at which their discipline is considered. We're legally required to notice them and invite them to it, right? And they have the right to attend, they have all the rights.
So where are we in this document that we're?
Complaint procedure. And my fear, or not fear, but my revisions to this would be to more clearly lay out that fine, the HR director can complete the investigation, can do the interviews, and then report back to the select board. But the select board cannot just, it says this, the select board will review the investigative report and any statement submitted by the complainant or respondent, discuss results of the investigation with the HR director and other management staff as appropriate, and decide what if action, if any, will be taken.
What number are you on?
7.
Oh, no wonder.
So this is the thing, is we can't discuss potential discipline of an employee, at least as at a real meeting with the three of us where we can do real things with the HR director or other management staff without also inviting the employee, because that's the employee's right, who may be subject to discipline. And at the very least, that should be laid out more clearly.
So, I'm just trying to get straight in my head what this would involve. So somebody makes a complaint, or one employee makes a complaint against another employee, the HR director investigates it. And then submits it to us. But for us to actually act on it, we then have to have everyone in the room, or just the person against who there's a complaint?
So,
We can't even discuss whether we wanna act on it, or how we might wanna act on it without them
You
present.
cannot deliberate on discipline of an employee
Right.
without noticing them properly
Right, so,
and inviting them to the meeting. They have the right to be present for any time the select board deliberates on.
what if
potential
this finding was that there wasn't a problem? Do we have to notice that too? Or do we only have to notice if we're going to censure?
Well, there's no way to know, right? Because
Right,
select
there's
boards
no way,
can't deliberate outside of meetings, whether open
Right.
meetings or executive sessions.
But we wouldn't have to executive session in that case, if there wasn't a finding of a problem.
I think you're correct.
No, I mean, yeah, if the HR director says this has been resolved, no action by the select board is necessary, and the select board agrees, and no member decides to call up such a meeting
Then we're good.
for
But
potential
otherwise,
discipline.
right,
But that needs to be laid out more clearly here, and that's, I mean, it's tricky. What you have is the HR director doing the initial interviews, gathering information, and making a recommendation to the select board. But the point I wanted to make is, the select board can't then meet with the HR director and discuss discipline of John Doe, because John
Right.
Doe has the right to
to be
be there.
there. No, I totally got you, I was just trying to make sure I understood all the
Just think
circumstances,
seven,
but.
just need some more verbiage
Yep,
Yeah, I,
to insert that employee or however you wanna.
so the select board will post and it will respond by posting an I'm just thinking out loud here, posting an executive session
With the HR director and said.
and
uh,
employees record or employees involved employees or something like that.
not the
I mean, I
employee.
don't have to word it
Yeah,
perfectly right this second, I'm just saying, is that what we'd be going for?
well, I just wanna make sure that this document reflects what the select board is ultimately going to
Good,
be
you have-
legally required to do.
I totally agree with you. The only thing that, this is gonna sound wacky, but do you ever worry that people would be like, it's so unpleasant to have to go into an executive session meeting with the select board that I just won't file a complaint?
It's possible, but that's their
But that's-
prerogative.
yeah, that's right, and there's not another legal way we can
It's
do
not
it,
like
so end of story, right?
It's not like we're in here with lions and
I know.
tigers.
Ah,
Oh my.
Yeah,
okay,
so I would make a move that we ask council to rethink paragraph 7 to Justin's concerns.
or HR, it's HR that drafted
Yeah,
it.
if it's all right with you,
Well,
I will work with,
HR should,
Do you wanna work with Sophia?
I
to
will
see if
work
you
with
can come up something?
Sophia
Sounds great,
and Donna
okay,
on
Good
this
idea.
to get it right.
she's the one who should get the writing.
Because here's the deal.
we can't be the only town that has to deal with this.
Well,
But there's stock language and it doesn't tend to involve it.
And the other thing is the complaint procedure is the one thing that's really unique to our town, because the rest is pretty standard
Why is it
language,
unique?
I believe. Well, because basically there's generally accepted standards of what constitutes sexual harassment, what constitutes retaliation, but then depending on your organizational structure.
It's not that no other town has an issue, it's
Right.
that it has to be tailored for your own town.
Gary Shaw?
I've got a question.
Yes.
What if, employee A and B have an issue, the HR person investigates, determines there's nothing? Okay, lets the select board know. That does not satisfy employee A.
So
What happens?
So there's a couple things. So anything, based on this policy, if it ends up being anything like it's currently drafted, the HR director makes a recommendation. So
Mhm. Right, so then the select board says, based on that recommendation, nothing is gonna be done.
No, somebody always has the right to file
I'm
a
just saying
complaint
that
with the state or to
you're-
file a complaint with the police or what have
Yeah.
you. But and that happens in lots of organizations, not just towns.
Okay,
Right? I mean, you have to do your best to investigate something, and if in the end, the evidence doesn't support censuring anybody, that's what you got.
mhm.
But that employee still has the right to further their
They
complaint.
they always had that right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They always had that right. We can't take that away from them, and I wouldn't suggest it, but I'm just saying it's always there and it never got taken away. But-
Well, it says that if it's inconclusive or it's determined that there's been no violation of policy but potentially problematic conduct may have occurred, the select board may recommend appropriate preventive action. But it doesn't answer your concern
No.
about how,
I just, it was,
how an employee that felt like something took place against them,
and they weren't heard.
or
what
they
happened.
were heard, but they still filed, it was,
Or they were heard and, there wasn't a,
Dismissed.
heard and dismissed.
Or there wasn't
whatever.
enough evidence, or
Yeah.
there wasn't, I mean,
Whatever, okay,
I do need to use the restroom, I'm sorry.
you're allowed.
put that on the record that
The video will show.
the chair,
Poor guy.
until he's 65.
I'm glad I had a snack before I came here. Well, when you let things go for that many months, you're gonna end up with a long meeting.
Was anything? So the time I go from the town
Some of this-
clerk, okay, so nothing was
That's
missed.
very good.
Right?
I did,
I can get through. But we do need a solid discrimination policy.
absolutely, that's.
I think some of these things can be moved to next week, though. We should probably do the appointments.
Done. I agree with them all.
Did you call any of Lori's people?
No. I didn't call anybody else either. But me,
Hey, she's gonna be our secretary. I called her.
did you?
Yeah.
Good for you. I kind of felt. I wasn't certain that any of it was gonna make any difference.
Well, when he's in here and we bring it up, I'll tell you what I heard, and then you can decide if you think it would make a difference. Ooh. No, it was really good. That's a difference to me. Like, I don't think only bad things should make a difference, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
That
If
is.
someone has a lot of good things to say, I think that
I
matters.
felt nothing but
Yeah,
appreciation for her sitting here and wanting to come into this.
I know. But I
Whatever
personally
it is.
don't mind hearing happy things. I like it. Bring it on.
Sorry.
That's okay. So, number 7 is you're gonna work with Sophia to try to draft some language around that one, and with Donna.
Yes,
Okay, sounds good.
that's the draft policy.
I'm gonna move that we postpone items 8, Mr. Sorry, Melissa, and office coverage during vacation. And do we actually have any active things under neighbor concerns about Camp Kamala?
No, but I think that I wanna touch base with you guys briefly.
To go, and I talked to Abby a couple times too, so I'm happy to share that.
Abby-
Levine, I believe her name is.
So I guess-
She's the camp director.
Okay, so my question at this point is how, I know we want to, we're gonna research what's available to us and how we wanna proceed. Does someone in particular wanna take that on? Because I think it's good to make
Task
someone
it out.
responsible.
I've been talking to Don and Sean.
Tarico and.
John
Tryon.
Trico and Sean Tryon is fire chief and building inspector, and I've talked to Abby Levine, who's the camp director. Ultimately, I mean, I'm happy to share any of that information with you, I'm eager to. Ultimately, I do think we're gonna end up needing to either meet with someone from the camp and or write a letter to them. There were some substantive issues, as of my last conversation with Don, they actually never finalized their building permits for the building they actually did. Yeah, okay.
Oops.
Yep, oops, and, I need to talk to Sean next week about some of the issues that arose as with fire inspections. There's the concern of the posting you sent. The Facebook page, was it, or no, it's, you sent it to me. Remember that they said that he had posted somewhere that he was talking about
That was-
Oh,
year
I
round.
forwarded it,
I
yeah.
think
right.
Mary Reagan
Right,
sent that to us.
Something burning. guys don't smell something burning?
I do.
No,
Anybody else? She's gonna start courting in the room.
no.
You look for
It's one way
that.
to get out of these meetings.
Yeah, but it was
just because I
Justin,
felt
what
bad
did you do?
Yeah.
So-
The only one who left the room.
So it's my concern about the zoning bylaw.
The what?
Saying, they're talking about going year round, hence my concern. I immediately went to the zoning rules and I was like, what? Right, so that's what prompted me to do that. So I think at the very least, there are some substantive concerns about how they operated this year that have to do with things the town does control. Like health, apparently the health inspections were okay, I also talked to the health inspector. So, but those are issues we could raise with them.
So you're gonna be the point person on this?
Absolutely, and I will also note that the bylaw committee, the one thing they are thinking of drafting or working on drafting is a noise ordinance, which is, everybody agrees, difficult and hard to enforce, but possibly necessary, because as it stands, the only option the town has through the police is a felony disturbing the peace.
It could be a misdemeanor.
Apparently it's not.
Okay.
That-
I'm
go
not,
figure.
yeah, I wouldn't.
I don't know.
I wouldn't.
I don't know either, but that's.
So here's what I'll do. Let's, if there's no objection, we will table to next week, 8
Okay.
and 9, and we just discussed 10. There's no
And I
objection.
will, and I agree.
And you will be the point person
Take
on
on
10
being point person.
and update us as you go.
I will try and write up something for next week, that you guys will have something written instead of just my verbal.
New business, we dealt with number 11, thank you again to the Friends of the Library for the donation. Number 12 is appointment to vacant Finance Committee seat. Recommendation from the Finance Committee, Roger Tryon and Eileen Marcus. So we do have Frank Abbott here from the Finance Committee, and Michelle Miller wrote us a note, which I will read. Greetings, I'm ready to confirm our recommendations to the select board at our joint meeting of Tuesday as drawn from the recording of that meeting. We discussed the high quality of the candidates and their various qualifications. In conclusion, Roger Tryon and Eileen Marcus were recommended to you for their ability to work in a positive way to further the town's priorities. Mr. Tryon brings a lifetime of knowledge and understanding of Monterey, as well as a self-described conservative fiscal outlook. He has served as tree warden on the planning board and has hands-on experience to inform his point of view. Ms. Marcus has a strong resume and a record of service on the Transfer Station and Council on Aging. She has innovative ideas and a strong financial understanding. Thank you for including us in this process. Michelle Miller.
Question,
Yes.
how many of these people are they requesting we appoint?
One.
One
We
of
have
them.
one vacancy.
They're just saying they're okay, my understanding is that they're okay with either of those people, would that be how you characterize that?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what we got.
I would move to appoint Eileen Marcus to the Finance Committee.
I'll second.
I think that she, her resume is just freaking tight. It's great.
I personally think that Roger is more suited for the role, given his longer tenure and familiarity with the equipment, which is a lot of, the finance committee is capital planning. And he's familiar with the heavy equipment that it becomes a lot of the capital planning. I think Roger's more suited for the seat, and I think, Eileen certainly brings the background from being involved in many organizations with financial planning, but I just think that Roger's experience in the town and his familiarity with equipment and roads and construction is more suited for what the finance committee.
I totally see your point, and that's an aspect I hadn't really considered. My concern is that I think, that is a significant part of the capital plan, but I also think there are aspects to, thoughtful, long-term financial planning in terms of how different ways you can deal with the money and what it means to borrow money and what options we have along those lines, cause we have things like the library. It's not like a non-issue if we wanna, I don't know how we will choose to pay for work that might need to be done on this building. There's other things on the capital plan, for which that broader financial experience and analytical skills might play a really important and critical part.
Well, I don't know that Roger doesn't have a broad financial experience, because as he mentioned in his appointment form to us, he does agriculture, landscape excavation, and rental real estate in Monterey, right? And rental, that is the wide, as far as I'm concerned, he has a hay business, excavating, trying stonework, and rental real estate property. And he's just so familiar with the town, and to have, the adaptability to go between careers and, adapt to as times change and seasons change. He's, I don't know, I'm not trying to say he's.
Are you concerned about any potential conflicts within the town as a result?
In the sense, like, if Roger were to, contract for the town, yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be contracted for the town if he's on the finance committee.
Is he now? I mean, has he recently? I don't know. That's a question.
I do see a hand up online. I will recognize R.
Sorry, I just want to make one comment. As being on the finance committee before, the finance committee has no jurisdiction on how money is raised in town based on if they borrow, they go bonds, they can recommend, but all they do responsible for is the budget. And the other thing is Roger put his name out there to run last time. And usually, I believe in the past, when someone resigned, the person who was running against the last person who ran, who lost or got the next votes, usually was appointed. But I think he put his name out there, and and that he should get it, because I mean, it has nothing to do with long-range plan, as I learned, because I didn't realize that either, but Finance Committee only does the budget. And so it has nothing to, as much as she can help you guys out with how you want to borrow, or lend, borrow the money, but it has nothing to do with in the Finance Committee. So they basically just do budgeting, unfortunately.
Ridiculous.
I do think, Eileen certainly has a resume of being involved in finances, but I think, Roger, has as much experience in Monterey as nearly everybody, and the financial background that he has is not lacking in any way, I don't think, in the depth and variety of different things that he's done. And then again, the familiarity with the equipment that we're gonna be
It's hard to
purchasing,
deny.
and his willingness to put his name forward at the election.
That part doesn't sway me as much as it might, but I see your point, and willingness toward service, certainly, we know that he is, right? He's served in many capacities over the years in town. I guess I was seeing it as an opportunity to get a little bit of new blood and maybe some new ways of looking at things.
There's, you're gonna we're gonna call a vote on Scott's motion to appoint Eileen Marcus to the finance committee. You did make that motion?
I made that motion.
Where do you stand? Is the question, pardon?
I made the motion.
Yeah.
It's a motion that's still standing on the floor.
Right.
Yeah,
So
and
I
I'm
think
calling a
He's
vote
calling the
on it.
question, so he's calling a vote.
Well.
Did somebody second it?
Seconded it.
Oh, I seconded it right there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's why we're having a conversation.
Well, I'm gonna vote for Eileen.
All right, I'm gonna vote for Ellen too.
I'll vote no. So Eileen Marcus is the The motion carries, and Eileen Marcus is appointed to the Finance Committee for the remainder, until the next election, which is likely May 2023. Congratulations, and thank you for
Yes,
volunteering to the town.
8 months of this position.
The next, agenda item is Conservation Commission appointment, Tim Lovett. I believe he's looking to be appointed for 3 months.
Just through December 31st.
Oh, he's just stepping into,
Just minutes, but I could talk him into that.
right, gotcha.
So I would move to appoint Tim Lovett through
Second.
December 31st, 2022 to the Conservation Commission. There's a second. Is there any further discussion or public comment?
Thank you, Tim. That's my public comment.
There will be, I'll call a vote on the motion.
Yes.
Susan, yes?
Yeah.
Yes, and Justin, yes, and Tim Lovett, will be appointed to the Conservation Commission through December 31st, 2022. Thank you, Tim. The next item on the agenda is Select Board Secretary. So we interviewed Lori last week.
I actually called all three of her references and just wanted, did you get a chance to talk to them?
I did not.
Okay, and they were all positive. The Otis Ridge supervisor, who, she's worked there 4 or 5 years, actually, the supervisor didn't know if it was 4 or 5 years, so that's why I was prevaricating there. Said she will hire again this year, she absolutely loves her. I have quotes to share with you because they were pretty glowing. Reliable and prompt, responsible, very good at dealing with customers, willing to fill in, no negatives. I don't think it gets a lot better than that. By the way, I was concerned because when I first called her, she said she had to have written permission from Lori before she could talk to me, and I thought, oh. But no, that's what I got when I got permission, so there you go. So I
Did we have a draft offer letter?
I do, I just need the date.
Yes. So when, Sophia and Melissa and I, mostly Sophia and Melissa, and then I didn't really help. But, Sophia and Melissa drafted an offer letter.
Okay.
Right? And we're asking when the start date should be, and I said something about, what do we think?
want as soon as, you know.
Would it be Monday,
Why don't we ask her?
Monday the 26th?
See, this is one of the problems that we have.
Right,
We assume.
right, I agree.
Let's go right to the horse's mouth and say, when can you start for us?
And maybe
And
a
then-
call to her to ask when she can start, and then we
Yeah.
put that date in.
Go to the
Is there any
source,
reason not to?
'cause that's where the truth lies.
No, there's no reason not to. How could we word it in the offer letter?
But could we
Please.
call her and then put that date in?
Call her right now?
Well, or Sophia can call her, or Melissa can call her and say, hey, the select board would like to appoint you. When can you start so I can put that in the letter?
Well, and part of the offer letter is we don't know that she's going to accept it.
Right,
So, yes, we are opening the communication.
how
We're not
about-
assuming.
we would like
Fine,
to
that's-
appoint you,
that's
please
what we have to
contact
do.
us about your potential start date.
Or with the start date as soon as possible?
Yeah, we
Well,
would,
we can-
we would like it started as soon as
Give
possible.
a date that
Please
we would
con-
say that
Well, we
would
can
work
just say,
for
please
us.
contact
Yeah.
us, what date would be feasible if you
Exactly.
choose to accept our offer.
Yes.
She could say no.
Can you please, do you have it pulled up right now, Melissa? Can you please write, please let us, please contact us regarding a start date that works for you?
Regarding the offer.
Right,
Yeah, well, that's true because we don't.
Right.
exactly, please contact us about whether
About
you,
whether you're gonna accept
would
the
like
offer
to
and when you
accept
could start.
and when you could start.
Yeah.
We can even say the sooner the better from our perspective, but I guess that's
So
not
we
what.
need to vote on that.
Let's see that, can we get that off?
Then that we gotta take it, because we're telling her to go get sworn in, and if she's not,
Well, how does this usually work?
how I wrote it to you, that was a
So we
previous
just
letter.
assume they're gonna accept it, which is not a bad thing, because if they don't, they don't.
Right,
But we'll just assume and say, please get sworn in, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
and please.
So instead of saying, let us know, because if the answer's no, then
Right,
it's
right.
fine. But please let us know, a start date that works for you.
Yeah, and you need to follow these protocols. Get it sworn in.
Right, I think that's in the letter
Yeah,
elsewhere.
yeah,
So how about if I add the last one is to get sworn in and see town administrator Melissa know to get the necessary new hire paperwork, and discuss your start date.
That works. Yay.
yeah.
This is what happens when you're trying to make decisions without dinner.
So
Okay.
you do need to make a motion to hire her first.
But do we do that before she said yes?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I would move to appoint Lori MacArthur as select board secretary for 3 months probationary.
Second.
Is there any further discussion or public comment on the motion? There being none, we'll call a vote on the motion to appoint Lori MacArthur select board secretary for a 3-month probationary period.
Yes.
Scott?
It's not just for the 3-month probationary period. It's that there
No,
is
hire
a
her
3-month
with a 3-month
probationary
probationary,
period
yeah.
involved in her,
Amended.
in her hiring. It's not just for those 3 months. It's just,
Okay, what we're gonna do is
I got it.
vote on the motion,
no,
and I'll vote no on the motion.
Yeah.
Motion fails. I'm gonna make a motion to appoint,
now, you told me to vote no, but I was going to anyway. Just for clarity, just so people aren't like, oh, yeah, go with it. Yeah,
I'm sorry, I politely asked.
correct, it's okay.
Anyway, you think?
I'm gonna make a motion to appoint Lori MacArthur as a select board secretary with a 3-month probationary period, and we are offering $18 an hour for up to 6 hours per week.
Okay.
Second.
Is there any further discussion or comment, public comment on the motion? There being none, I will call a vote. Susan?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Justin, yes.
Alright. Yay. By the way, based on our earlier discussion today with the clerk, following a meeting where we do appointments, as her direct report, would you like to send her an email updating her regarding who's been appointed?
Yes.
So she can upkeep her list?
Yes.
Excellent.
She'll do
So she's copied on all the appointment letters.
Is she?
Yes.
Good to know.
Always has been.
Always has been, I always give
So
her.
she has been informed.
Okay.
How does she receive those? Through the intermail list?
Some of them are via email, if the person has an email address, and I'm sending it, I CC her on it, and if they don't have an email, then she gets a paper copy of it.
Okay.
Then-
Do we need to address the question of whether she's looking at emails she gets from the town administrator? Because if part of the issue is that she's not even
Yes, we
looking
should
at
make
those
certain
emails.
that part of that conversation today was acceptance of emails and sending emails back
And I
and
think
forth.
we need to follow that up, because otherwise
Yeah.
information is getting lost.
So you should probably just go in there and talk to her and make certain that
I'm
she's accepting emails from Melissa on these
I think it
appointments.
needs to also be in writing, please, because otherwise it didn't happen.
Yeah, it could be.
The next,
Fire department.
one second.
Page 1 of 4.
So- The item number 15, fire department appointments. I would move that we appoint Austin Mosca and Brian Budak as indefinite appointments to the fire department.
Second.
Is there any discussion or comment on that? There being none, I'll call a vote. Susan?
Yep.
Scott?
Yes,
Justin, yes. Motion carries, and we have 2 new
member,
fire
great.
department.
Yay.
You look right downtown. So.
Do we need to send something out to, like, everybody that's appropriate to just say, if you know, this is who? Does the fire chief need to update his list of who's actually serving?
He does that with me.
He does, okay, sounds good. Is there anybody else that needs to update their list?
So well, I give you the appointment list in June.
Right. Okay.
But indefinite appointments, how do they get removed?
So, yeah, Sean comes in and goes over it with me and
But I guess what we're trying to say is we need a
System.
system to,
does this go back to the swearing in and stuff? Cause I
Just trying to reduce the amount of things that fall through the cracks. So yeah, not just swearing in, but if somebody has been sworn in and is an indefinite appointment and then exits in some way, how is that ever recorded? So we have a process for the fire department, but what about other people?
So I guess the first question would be, and I think I brought up this issue with you, is that can we find out who actually needs to be sworn in? Because an issue was raised to me that there are some fire department members and some highway department members that have not been sworn in because they are not comfortable coming into that office.
But the other part of that issue would be, do they even need to be sworn in?
Right, so
Why
that's,
would you
I think
swear
if we
in
could
a?
figure out that first, we
highway
may not need
department
to
member?
have all these lists.
I don't know, I did it for the oath of office, but that's an elected position
Exactly.
versus, I don't know, I don't remember having them be sworn in.
I understood
Or-
why for the Board of Appeals, because you're a pseudo judiciary body. And
Yeah,
also,
or the
we were
ZBA.
elected, we were also elected, right, so,
But that's just,
Employees can't get sworn in.
it's weird, right?
Yeah, that doesn't
They would
sound
Can
right.
you
get it
confirm that with
appointed or
council first, like who
hired.
actually needs to get
so,
sworn in?
okay, and it's like the same question as who needs to be appointed formally. And the problem is, right, if you don't appoint someone or don't swear someone in that's supposed to be, that's a much bigger problem than if you appoint people and swear people in that don't need to be.
Well, how do we get that?
I'm not
right?
saying we shouldn't know, I'm just saying let's err on the side of doing the
Caution until we do
formalities,
know.
doing the formalities,
But what if that formality is just not
Unnecessary.
necessary?
oh, it may well be,
Step.
and maybe we can figure it out, but like, for instance, when
Who
it
would
came
answer
up,
that question?
so so when it came up with appointments, just as an example, right? We asked Donna at the time,
I think we've asked all of our attorneys.
we probably asked all of our attorneys,
Yeah.
who needs to be appointed, who doesn't? The problem is the way that you do it, there's no easy list. So it says, in the part of Mass General Law where it says you have an inspector of wires, it says more or less whether that person needs to be appointed, whether the town is legally required to have one, X, Y, and Z. What needs to be done is the work of going through and checking each position. We're not going to, unless the board wants to, ask the lawyer to do that because that's a lot of money to basically go through Mass General Law. But if we were to do it, we might mess up. So it is one of those things where we ultimately decided, at least a couple times I've been involved in the conversation, we're just going to appoint, we're gonna appoint more than less. Because if we don't appoint someone who's supposed to be appointed, that's a problem. If we appoint someone who doesn't need to be appointed, that's not really a problem, other than the inconvenience
Of doing it,
of doing it.
and the swearing in, the same thing.
Well, but so I use, so if you decide just to err on the side of caution, so let's take the fire department, for example, and you appoint all of them. And let's say they don't come down here and get sworn in, but they're supposed to, does that then fall on to Terry to keep a list and keep on them that they haven't been sworn in, and should they be performing their duty if they haven't been
So
sworn in?
it's my understanding, we were talking about this earlier, but it's my understanding that towns, we are not the only town that appoints people who don't get sworn in and elects people that don't get sworn in. And it's not right, but the realistic enforcement possibilities are limited.
One thing we could do, and I tried to do this with the select board, and it didn't happen, would be that we could have occasional events where anybody who's not sworn in could be sworn in at a public meeting. Why not?
Yeah, but if you're an elected official, you have to be sworn in.
No,
to
it
legally-
wouldn't work for everybody, but I was thinking like for the fire department, it seems
That's why I
really
think it makes
strange
more
to me
sense
that
to
the
find out
highway department
If you
needs to.
have to be sworn in or not.
But
why
we
do you
have
think-
that guidance, right? We have that guidance on appointments, but no one's ever done, including myself, no one's ever done the work to read through for each position and figure it out.
Well, some aren't listed.
And
Any that
swearing-
aren't listed aren't
Right.
required, right?
Okay.
But who's gonna go through
and make sure that they're
Look, it'd be great if someone is willing to do that, but we have the legal guidance we need on that, right? We all have that email somewhere, we can share it with Scott, if you don't have it.
I don't think I have.
When, I think this might have preceded me.
I don't think it does, cause we got it most recently from Donna, no? It comes up, it comes up once and again,
Okay.
but basically the point being,
I'll look for-
you don't need to appoint people if they're not required to be appointed by Mass General Law. But the only way to figure that out is to go through meticulously for each position, there's no, here's the list of people who need to be appointed.
Yeah, because it's a very.
And it's just a big time sink for not little, it's not very much gain.
Which reminds me, I found someone I think is willing to serve as an ADA coordinator, but we're following.
Okay, that's great news.
Um,
Thanks for keeping on looking.
the next, okay, that's fire
Did
department
we
appointments.
come up with a plan for what to do with the people who, I mean, I don't think the people in the highway department need to be sworn in, that strikes me as strange, they're just employees.
Nobody's just
My point is, they're not serving the town in a way that I think they need to be sworn in, but what do I know? But if they do, and they're not, what are we going to do to get them sworn in?
We're going to do, I mean, I'm not sworn into two things that I'm serving on yet. What are we gonna do to me?
No, not to, with, like, how do we fix it?
Um,
You see her every week, you don't have an excuse.
Well, it's because the parade committee, doesn't meet this
Right.
way. But,
Yeah, sworn in on a parade committee?
Come on,
This
really.
place has changed too much.
I mean, honestly.
Can I make a motion that we move this
yeah,
subject to next week?
Okay.
yeah, if someone wants to add it to the agenda next week, please do.
No
Oh,
problem.
I don't think I want to add it.
I can't wait to see it again. Alright.
Town administrator items.
So I don't know if I wanna bring this up tonight, but, Sophia and I have been talking, I used to hold the department, roundtables with the department heads. They were, kind of attended, but it wasn't mandatory. And her and I would like to reinstitute them with her and I together, but we want to make them mandatory, but we don't wanna do that without running
So
it
what
by
does a
you.
round table consist of?
So, bringing up, various topics and meeting with all the department heads. It may not be a convenient time for everybody, and we're talking about maybe like a 4 o'clock on a Wednesday, so since she's here. But we want everybody to attend.
I like the idea of roundtables. I have seen come through the mailbox on at least one occasion, good things that have happened there with coordination between departments. I don't think that we should make them mandatory, because forcing people to be at meetings like that they don't wanna be at is almost as bad or worse than them saying, I have a busy week and I need to do, I have this task I need to do for the job, and they may have so many hours.
It is, but we're thinking if it's not and people don't attend, then, I don't know who to use as an example, the library, if the library refuses to attend, then we're not getting updates and we're not, working as a team and that kind of stuff.
So the idea is all department heads?
Yeah.
Can we table this to next week?
Yes,
When
that's
my
why I said
blood
I
sugar's
would-
not
I-
so
so you
low.
start
Right,
thinking about it.
Yeah.
Berkshire Regional Planning Commission contract, you guys have a copy there, it's just so that they can, they're gonna be the administrators of the second phase of the MVP.
Is there an original we need to sign?
I think, you can sign one of them, I will put the signature page that you sign with the original
Okay.
that I have in the office.
So my one question.
Yeah.
So this 23,220, that is part of the second phase of grant award?
Yeah.
So were we always planning on them administering the grant, or?
They have been up to date.
Okay, alright. I was just curious. Alright, I would move that we approve, or I would move that we accept the agreement by and between the town of Monterey and the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission on this 21st day of September 2022 for them to administer the second phase of the municipal vulnerability program grant.
Second.
Is there any discussion or public comment? I'll call a vote on the motion. Susan,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
and Justin, yes. So the motion carries, and we do accept this agreement. There's one signature spot, I believe. Melissa, is that correct?
You wanna just sign it?
And then I gotta put,
So while you're signing that, the email migration ended up taking place a day earlier than I thought it was supposed to, or than we were told. So far I've heard from most everybody, it seems to have gone
Do you
really
hear
well.
from
There's
her?
a few
Mine was
little
okay.
kinks, like I had to change Justin's name, and I'm actually changing it for a couple other people, because it came across weird like that as well, but.
What did yours do?
It
Well-
came, the display name came across as like Justin.
Justin, and then where the @ symbol is in email, it's just Justin space Monterey MA.gov. That's how everyone was appearing in mine. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
I kinda liked how old looking the other one felt.
Yes.
I like the other one a lot better, but maybe we'll get used to it.
Well, I already feel myself making the emails much more informal just because of how the thing looks.
That might not be a terrible thing, I don't know, you go either way, alright.
So the next item, I just want to thank the clerk's office for returning the missing item that was reported last week. I would also like the board to address, I understand there was some emails accusing me of accusing people of stealing, and having gone back and listened to the tape, that was never said, never intended. I appreciate that the item that was missing was returned.
I think it's an unfortunate miscommunication, and we are trying to improve the all communications so that
I appreciate that.
we
So
deal
there's
with
fewer
items
of those
without
issues.
exaggerating them. Okay.
And then the last one is Jim has a reimbursement request for the Winter Recovery Assistance Program funds for $27,774.70.
And that's just for line painting.
For line painting,
I
yes.
would, and we have to support this.
Yeah, you basically just are approving the request for reimbursement, the accountant is also gonna sign it.
Yeah. I would move that the board approve the request by Jim Hunt, Director of Operations, for $27,774 for line painting and the Winter Recovery Assistance Program reimbursement request.
Second.
Is there any discussion or public comment? I'll call a vote. Susan?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Justin, yes, and motion carries.
Don't take money from the state, why don't you do that? Okay, where do you sign?
And they're all, that money's also for fog sealing and then crack sealing, right?
Yeah, so we
What
need
is
to do more
fog
levels.
sealing?
Have you driven on New Marlboro Road this year?
Yeah.
But what does it do, is
What is
my
the
question, I saw the stuff, but I didn't know what it was to do, I think it's to is it reducing the reflectance, so you're being.
It's not reducing,
No.
it's got like little, over time, Jim was telling us, it fills in the gravel. So like, you get little pinholes, you get water, freezes and that,
Okay, gotcha,
so the idea is to extend the life of the road.
road, okay.
And Jim has said before, and I think he may have included recently an email, that he has a computer program that includes all the paved roads in Monterey and any information that we have about them, that the program will accept, like how old they are, if they've been resurfaced, what kind of work's been on them. And the program helps him make decisions as to what roads to fog seal or crack seal or mill the top layer of or completely redo in ways that economically make sense.
Yeah, it gives a grade to the road and a score, so and a rating as to where it falls in needing, like, definitely, just minor repairs. I can show it to anybody if you guys want to see.
It's really cool,
But
actually.
it is pretty cool.
Speaking of, well, we'll have West Road on our agenda for next week.
That's a good idea.
If you drive on 57 there, take a drive up, it's interesting.
So again, so you know, I did respond to Nancy Marcus, and I just wanna get the guy's name right. So Sean Tucker, was the name of the fellow that Nancy gave me, who sold most of those people their property and owns the property at the top of West Road. Though he does not live there, and he is not a Monterey resident, he lives in Shepherd, New Marlboro. So I spoke to him about it after Nancy raised the issue, and I've spoken to Jim, we should all go look at it. There, we can talk about it more next week, but he's looking into the issue as well. He's gonna drive up and have a look at what was done and try to address the issue with the other people, cause I think this is one of those things where it's like,
This
nobody
isn't
wants
new.
to pay. Pardon? No, it's not new, it's not new, nobody wants to pay, but what's new is the road is washing
Oh, yeah.
onto
Well, even
57
that's
and
not
across the
new,
road,
but
there
it's
you go.
just,
But
Yeah.
it needs to stop, and we need to figure out how to help it happen.
well, I believe Mr. Tucker's been lackadaisical in his approach to maintaining the road that he claims that he owns.
That maybe he was claiming to me that he does not own it. And
Alright.
that,
Yeah.
whatever,
We'll figure it out next week, we got
Yep, that's.
enough left on that point.
okay.
So,
Do we wanna postpone mailing correspondence too, or do we wanna try and deal with it?
why don't we deal with them quickly?
Okay.
Because I have a
I'm
plan.
good with it, let's do it.
I have a plan.
Ooh. Sorry about that.
Email from Robin Williams about Fiber Connect, September 14th, 2022. Fiber Connect should not be permitted to solicit huge to the select board. Fiber Connect should not be permitted to solicit huge amounts of money for pre-installation without any commitment for a date the wired internet will be live. I, along with many people in Monterey, live here for part of the year. That does not mean I'm wealthy. I'm a retired teacher on a fixed income. I had my name on their list for about 2 years now as interested in getting wired internet. It is outrageous that in New Marlboro, just a little up the road from me, they have wired internet without any exorbitant installation fees for only $50 a month. It is an operation. Why did we not get that? Instead, this company lied to the town and said they would not seek government grants, which they did. We lost a company, I believe Wired West, which that was being considered in the past. Fiber Connect wants $500 in advance or $1,000 if I hold off, plus $100 a month. They do not yet have any plan like most companies do, where I would not have to pay while I'm away, which is about 7 months of the year. By the time they turn it on, I will be charged $100 a month and I won't even be here. But who knows when they will turn the service on? Do you know? Are there any demands placed on this company, or are they just pocketing our money? They ran cable down my street a few years ago, nothing has happened. They need to face some demands by the select board. You are here to represent the public's interest. In this day and age, it is outrageous that in the enlightened state of Massachusetts, we have no wired internet. I participate in and run many meetings on Zoom that have been a disaster due to reliance on a hotspot. Please do something to remedy this problem. It is a long overdue priority. I've seen the town waste time and energy embroiling itself instead in petty personal attacks on employees and officials. Wired internet is a key priority for all parts of the town. So my first thought was, we have a contract with Fiber Connect, which is the town's demands of the company, of the private company Fiber Connect, and Fiber Connect's corresponding demands of the town. So I did send the contract to Robin Williams. I don't know that anything in here suggests that Fiber Connect is not following its contract with the town.
I think the problem that's arisen, and it's been brought to me by a bunch of people in Beartown, as you know, and I know you spent some time trying to deal up in the Marlboro area, is that the contract doesn't specify it done by a date. And it's not being done. And it's always like, there's always a question of, well, whose fault is that, or what are the issues? We know that there's build out issues, we know that there's getting fiber issues, but we need, at some point, we have to approach him and say, so where's the beef?
So
How long do we wait before we are like,
since I've been on the board, we invite Adam in about every 3 to 6 months, just to get an update, and I think that would be appropriate now, right? It's been a few months.
the last update was that he didn't have fiber, I think, right?
Yeah, I think we had made it a little further with the Beartown poles,
He had
right?
gotten approval, or the make readies had been approved, but the make ready had not been done.
Right. So it would be good to
Physically
know if
moving
it's
the
at least
wires in.
done now.
Mickey Jervis.
Yeah, I can just tell you that on Swan Road, I have to see, first of all, they marked the pole in my backyard, which I think they decided they're not gonna do that, so they were gonna take my pole out in my backyard and replace it. And they decided against that, so I covered up the white X. And, I saw a truck out by the pole, and I just go out and talk to people if they're anywhere near my house looking official. And it was the guy from, Aspenlawn, or how you say that name? They usually
The
do
tree
tree
company.
work, but
Yeah,
they
yeah.
also, and I spoke to this guy after I almost gave him a heart attack because I came up behind him. Excuse me. They are going to be doing the wire, and I guess from National Grid told me they are also gonna be replacing the poles. And he told me, at least his part, the wiring, was going to be done sometime in September. So
Yeah.
I think we're running out of sometime in September, and he was a wiring guy, not a pole guy, he didn't know anything about the poles. And, so that has, if the poles haven't been done, the wiring certainly isn't gonna be done, it doesn't look like it's gonna get done in September. So that's not on Fiber Connect, although I know that, plans he knew nothing about poles, he just was picking up the wire.
Okay, so we'll invite Adam in, we'll get a better update. He usually has some pretty good numbers and ideas, and he give us an update on where he's at. I do see a hand up in the remote attendance from R.
You're on if you wanna talk to us.
No, I just was waiting. I thought this was the end for the public comments, or is it not?
Okay.
Not yet.
We'll be there in.
Okay, that's all I really wanted to talk.
So article about tree work we already discussed, as I drafted it, reflecting that we're just doing Bidwell Park for this special town meeting, the increased price. And I will send that to the Monterey News, and I'll post that on the select board webpage, so we already kinda dealt with that. We have been acknowledging, receipts of ARPA requests as they come in, so we received another one from the town administrator for $4,000, which would be a survey of the property between the ball field and the pavilion, to see where it could go in terms of housing,
What it might be used for.
what it might be used for, right?
Yeah.
Got the focus being on housing.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And we still have another month, little less than a month for those ARPA requests.
We also got one from Lori, didn't we?
We did.
But not in time for this again.
Oh, okay.
Approve minutes of these different meetings.
We did the executive.
So we should announce to the public that we have approved minutes to 8/31/22 executive session, but they are not available, they are not released to the public at this point in time. 9/7, 9/14, 9/13/22 joint, we'll work on
Yeah, I was just gonna
next
say.
week.
Yeah, thank you.
We move to item number 19, comments and questions from the public. Rebecca, you're up.
I did want to talk about last week and the comments that were made about the election workers. And Susan, I think you were listening to the wrong week's minutes. I have it queued up if you want to hear it. We were all accused of taking things out of the room. And I'm sorry, if you don't think that's what she said, we can listen to it. I think
Rebecca,
we
which week? Last week or the week
last
before?
last week.
I listened to the entire thing
Do you want me to
twice.
play it right now?
I
Or do you
have,
want
about
to
you
call me
follow
to
along?
discuss this
I
offline?
asked you to send me the timestamp so I could
I
look,
did.
and that's.
I did.
Okay, well, I didn't get to see it before I came because I've been here a while.
I sent it to you before around 5-ish somewhere.
No,
I was
the first thing I got from you said that it
5:30.
was towards the end of the meeting, but the only thing I found was around 1 hour and 57 minutes, which wasn't actually the end of the meeting because it was a very long
Well,
meeting.
I can
But
play it if
that's the
you
only thing
want.
I found, and no, the only person who used the word steal was you.
Well, I believe the words, they were taking things out of the office and I have to replace them and want to charge Terry for it. That means that people were stealing, and I'm not a thief and I didn't steal anything. And stop shaking your head, Ellen. And I'm sorry that if she was mistaken, she's mistaken. Own up to it. But I
How
am
about if you
sorry.
were mistaken?
Election workers spend their time. They volunteer. They do a service to this town. And to be treated and spoken about like that is just not right. You want to get people to volunteer, and then you talk about them like they're stealing things. They're taking things that don't belong to them. I don't know what else you want to call it, but by taking things that don't belong to you and then have to have someone else pay for it means you stole from them. And I'm sorry, I didn't take any,
Thank you.
and neither did anyone else while I was there. And there was a police officer there. Nothing was stolen. She made a
Thank you,
mistake. Own
Rebecca.
up to it. Own up to it.
I'm going to call on you, Ellen Coburn.
Thank you. Tomorrow, there's a meeting at 3:30 of the Dignity Initiative. I would like to suggest that Rebecca and anyone else who has an issue like this attend that meeting. I feel that Dignity Initiative is a very powerful idea for our town. And when issues like this come up, they need to be dealt with in the way that was presented in that special meeting that we had, which was wonderful. So I hope that many people will come to the Dignity meeting tomorrow at 3:30. I attended the meeting last week. I totally disagree with Rebecca's impression of what happened, and but that's something that should be discussed in a civilized, polite way. So I hope
Well,
people will come to the Dignity meeting, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
all right, thanks. Okay, we're done because it's recorded, it's on YouTube, and we're not gonna discuss it anymore because we have to move on. And some of us have been, we've been here for a little while, and are
I
there
just
any
have
other
one
comments,
thing,
questions
Justin.
from the public?
Was this lady
What's your
recognized?
one question, Rebecca?
I just like to let Ellen know that 3:30 is the middle of the day when people are working. So it's very hard for people who work full time to just walk out of their job and be here at 3:30. So that's a problem. And so you've made it for retired people only, I guess. I don't know. But people can't come when they're working.
Okay,
Yeah, I didn't make it.
thank you. Okay, so any other comments and questions from the public? Gary Shaw.
My name was mentioned at the last select board meeting as yelling during the select board election. I didn't appreciate it. I don't believe that I yelled. If I suppose it's possible that I raised my voice to quiet people down. If I did, I'd appreciate that people come to me and say, you shouldn't have done that. And that would have been fine. I don't think getting called out in a select board meeting is the way to handle things. Thank you.
I think a lot of communication issues have come up tonight, and I think it's behooves us all to try to get better at communicating things and not letting things get so built up that I don't, when I was growing up, my mom called it the gas can scenario, that the guy runs out of gas and he has a gas can in his car, and the whole way walking along the road, he's convinced the person's gonna be a jerk to them. And he gets there and he's like, "Yeah, you can keep your gas can," right? Like, if you just build it up and you don't vent it, it doesn't get better.
Thank
All
you.
right, we're all gonna do better communication. Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Vote on the motion to adjourn. Susan,
yes.
Scott. Yes. Meeting, it's Justin, yes. Meeting adjourned at 9:18 PM.